Story 1. My fiancée called sobbing about her best friend who had just lost her mother and needing to take her on a healing trip to Hawaii. Could I watch her dog? I agreed immediately. 3 days later, I saw her Instagram story on a private beach, tagged with her ex-boyfriend. This morning, I dropped her dog off at the adoption center, threw away all her clothes, and posted my own story. She lost it, and I woke up to 107 calls. I'm still staring at my phone screen. 107 missed calls. 34 voicemails. So many text messages that the notification just says 99 plus and gave up counting. My phone's been buzzing nonstop for the past 6 hours, vibrating itself halfway across my nightstand like it's trying to escape the chaos it contains. Her name fills every notification. Ashley. 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 I should probably start from the beginning, but honestly, I'm still trying to process what I did this morning. My hands are shaking as I type this, and I can't tell if it's adrenaline or the delayed shock of watching 3 years crumble in 72 hours. Maybe both. 3 days ago, everything was fine. No, that's a lie. 3 days ago, everything seemed fine, which is different. Looking back now with this sick clarity that comes from betrayal, I can see the hairline fractures in the foundation. But at the time? I was planning our wedding. I was looking at honeymoon destinations on my lunch breaks. I was that guy who smiled at his phone when she texted. I was an absolute fool. It started with a phone call Tuesday evening. I was working late at the office, trying to finish a presentation for a client meeting, when Ashley's name lit up my screen. I answered on the second ring, already smiling. That's what love does to you, turns you into someone who gets excited about routine phone calls. Hey, babe, what's? She was sobbing. Not crying, sobbing. The kind of desperate, gasping sounds that immediately trigger your protective instincts, that make your heart drop into your stomach and start pumping ice water through your veins. Ashley? What's wrong? Are you okay? Are you hurt? It's Emma, she choked out between sobs. Her mom died this morning. She's completely falling apart, and I don't know what to do. Emma. Her best friend from college. I'd met her maybe twice, at birthday parties and group dinners. Nice enough, I guess. Blonde, bubbly, laughed too loud at her own jokes. The kind of friend Ashley had known forever but didn't see that often since Emma lived across the country. My presentation suddenly felt microscopic compared to actual death. Oh no. I'm so sorry. Is there anything I can do? Does Emma need anything? Ashley sniffled, and I heard her blow her nose. I need to go to her. She's alone out there, and she needs someone. Her mom was everything to her. Of course. Absolutely. When's your flight? That's the thing. Her voice cracked again. She doesn't want to be home right now. Too many memories. She asked if I could come with her somewhere, just to get away for a few days while she processes everything. Somewhere peaceful where she can grieve without everyone in her hometown treating her like a widow. That makes sense, I said, already mentally rearranging my schedule. Where are you thinking? She suggested Hawaii. She said her mom always wanted to take her there, and maybe being somewhere beautiful would help her feel close to her mom's spirit. I know it sounds strange, but grief makes people need strange things, you know? I did know. My dad passed when I was 19, and I spent 3 days driving aimlessly through back roads, sleeping in my car, because being in our house felt like drowning. Grief doesn't follow logic. When do you leave? Tomorrow morning. Early. I know it's sudden, but Emma's just so broken, and I can't let her go through this alone. The pause that followed felt loaded somehow, but I was too focused on being supportive to analyze it. Of course you can't. Go. Be with her. How long? Just 5 days. Maybe 6. I'll be back by Sunday at the latest. What about Mochi? Mochi was her Pomeranian, this little cloud of beige fur with the personality of a spoiled duchess. Ashley loved that dog more than most people love their children. That's actually why I'm calling. Her voice went small. I hate to ask, but could you possibly watch her? I know you're busy with work, but I can't board her on such short notice, and I trust you with her, and... Ashley. Yes. Of course. Bring her over tonight. The relief in her voice sounded genuine. That's what gets me. Even now, replaying the conversation in my head, I can't find the lie in her tone. She was that good, or I was that blind. You're amazing. Thank you so much. I love you. I love you too. Tell Emma I'm thinking of her. She showed up at my apartment 40 minutes later, eyes puffy and red, makeup smudged. She'd thrown Mochi's things into a tote bag, food, bowls, toys, her little pink bed. The dog immediately started sniffing around my apartment like she was casing the joint. Ashley looked exhausted. She collapsed onto my couch and I held her while she cried against my chest, her shoulders shaking, her fingers gripping my shirt. I stroked her hair and murmured those useless comforting sounds people make when words won't cut it. Emma's so lucky to have you, I said. She pressed her face harder into my chest. I felt her nod. We stayed like that for 20 minutes. Then she pulled back, wiped her eyes, and gave me this watery smile that made my chest ache. I should go. I still need to pack, and the flight's at 6 in the morning. I walked her to the door. We kissed, and she tasted like salt and sadness. Text me when you land, I said. And Ashley? You're doing the right thing. Emma's going to remember this forever. Another smile. Smaller this time. Thanks for understanding. Not every guy would be this cool about his fiancée jetting off to Hawaii on a moment's notice. I trust you, I said. That was 72 hours ago, and those 3 words are playing on repeat in my brain like a sick joke. I trust you. I trust you. I trust you. The thing about betrayal is that it rewrites history. Every memory gets infected with doubt. Was she lying when she said she loved me? Was she thinking about him when she kissed me? How long had this been planned? But I'm getting ahead of myself. Wednesday passed normally. Ashley texted me when she landed, sent me a selfie of her and Emma at the airport, both of them in oversized sunglasses, Emma looking appropriately devastated, Ashley's arm around her shoulders. They looked like what they were supposed to be, 2 friends on a sad, necessary trip. I worked. I took Mochi for walks. She's a demanding little thing, constantly needing attention, barking at shadows, refusing to eat her food unless I pretended to eat some first. High maintenance. But I didn't mind. I was doing this for Ashley, to help her friend, and that felt good. Felt like what you're supposed to do when you love someone. Thursday, fewer texts. Ashley said they'd found a quiet place on the island, very secluded, not much phone service. She sent me one photo, a sunset over the ocean, all oranges and pinks bleeding across the water. Beautiful. Peaceful. Exactly what a grieving person would need. Missing you, she wrote. Mochi being good? Missing you more. Mochi's fine. Take care of Emma. That was our last real exchange. Friday morning, I was scrolling through Instagram during my coffee break. Not looking for anything in particular, just mindlessly burning time the way we all do, thumb flicking up in that zombie scroll, barely processing the content. Then I saw it. At first, my brain couldn't make sense of what I was looking at. It was like those optical illusions where you have to stare for a while before the hidden image reveals itself. It was Ashley's story. Posted 2 hours ago. She was on a beach. Not just any beach, one of those impossibly perfect private beaches that only exists in travel magazines and rich people's lives. White sand. Turquoise water. Palm trees swaying like they were being directed by a cinematographer. But that wasn't the part that made the world tilt sideways. She was wearing a red bikini I'd never seen before. Her hair was down, loose and wild in the ocean breeze. She was laughing, head thrown back, one hand holding a champagne glass, the other stretched out toward the camera like she was reaching for whoever was taking the photo. She looked happy. Not grieving with a friend happy. Not supporting someone through trauma happy. She looked like someone on vacation with their lover. And there, in the bottom corner, barely visible but unmistakable, was a tag. At Marcus_Chen_. My vision went blurry around the edges. Marcus Chen. Her ex-boyfriend. The guy she dated for 2 years before me. The one she said ended badly, mutual decision, stayed friends but didn't really talk anymore. I clicked the tag with fingers that didn't feel like mine. His profile was private, but his profile picture was clear enough, him and Ashley, at what looked like the same beach, his arm around her waist, both of them grinning at the camera. The timestamp said it was posted yesterday. I sat there in the break room, coffee going cold in my hand, trying to make this make sense. Maybe Emma couldn't be in the photo because she was too sad. Maybe Marcus just happened to be in Hawaii at the same time. Maybe there was some completely reasonable explanation that would make me feel stupid for even questioning it. But I could feel the truth settling into my bones like cement. Heavy. Permanent. Suffocating. I called her. It went straight to voicemail. I texted, "Hey, how's it going? Emma doing any better?" 3 hours later, a bit better. She's sleeping a lot. This place is really helping her. Me, where exactly are you guys staying? Her, a little rental. Very remote. Lots of healing energy. Why? The lie sat there between us, pixels on a screen, so casual you'd never know it was a knife. I didn't respond. Instead, I did what any rational person would do, I went full detective. I scrolled through her recent Instagram activity. She'd been careful, but not careful enough. 3 weeks ago, she'd liked several of Marcus's photos. 2 weeks ago, she'd commented a fire emoji on his gym selfie. Nothing overtly incriminating, but now, with context, it read like a neon sign. I checked her location sharing, the one we'd set up for safety, so we'd always know the other was okay. She'd turned it off. When had she done that? I went back further in her messages. We had each other's passwords, that stupid relationship trust thing that seems romantic until it isn't. I'd never looked before. Never had a reason to. I had a reason now. Her messages with Marcus went back months. Hundreds of them. I couldn't read them all. Honestly, I couldn't stomach more than a handful. But the ones I saw were enough. Can't wait to see you again. He has no idea, lol. Only 6 more weeks until Hawaii. This is going to be perfect. The messages from 3 days ago, he bought the whole story. Told you he would. He's so trusting it's almost sad. That one physically hurt. Like someone reaching into my chest and squeezing. I closed the messages. Put my phone face down on my desk. Stared at the wall. The office continued around me, phones ringing, keyboards clicking, someone laughing at the water cooler. Normal sounds from a normal day. But I was underwater, everything muffled and distant, drowning in slow motion. How long had I sat there? I don't know. Long enough that my boss stopped by my cubicle to ask if I was all right. I told him I had food poisoning and needed to go home. He took one look at my face and didn't argue. I went home. Mochi greeted me at the door, tail wagging, completely oblivious to the fact that her owner was a liar and a cheat and that the world had just imploded. I sat on my couch. She jumped into my lap. I scratched behind her ears while my brain tried to process the math. Ashley had planned this. For weeks, maybe months. She'd manufactured an entire crisis, used her best friend's dead mother as a cover story, just to spend a week in paradise with her ex-boyfriend. She'd looked me in the eyes, cried on my chest, let me comfort her, and the whole time she was counting down the hours until she could be with him. And I'd helped her. I'd encouraged her to go. Told her she was doing the right thing. Taken her dog without hesitation. The humiliation was almost worse than the heartbreak. I didn't sleep Thursday night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, while Mochi snored peacefully beside me, and I thought about everything. Every moment of our relationship rewound and replayed with new context. Every I love you now suspect. Every plan we'd made for the future now obviously a lie on her part. The wedding we were supposed to have in 8 months. The venue we'd already paid a deposit on. The guest list we'd been arguing about. My family wanted a big celebration, hers wanted something intimate. Turns out, she wanted nothing at all. At least not with me. By the time the sun came up Friday morning, I'd made my decision. I wasn't going to call her. Wasn't going to text. Wasn't going to give her the chance to spin another lie, to gaslight me into thinking I was crazy, to cry and manipulate and worm her way back into my good graces. I was going to act. First, Mochi. I felt bad about this part, I really did. The dog hadn't done anything wrong. But she was Ashley's dog, registered in Ashley's name, and Ashley had abandoned her to go sleep with her ex. So at 7 in the morning, I loaded Mochi into her carrier, drove to the local animal shelter, and surrendered her. The woman at the desk looked concerned. Is everything all right? Are you sure about this? She's not my dog, I said. And her owner isn't coming back for her. We'll need the owner to sign the surrender forms. The owner's unreachable. I'm just trying to make sure the dog gets taken care of. It wasn't technically legal, probably. But I was past caring about technicalities. Let Ashley deal with getting her dog back. Let her explain to the shelter why she'd abandoned her pet. Next, I went back to my apartment. Ashley kept a lot of her stuff at my place. We were engaged, planning to move in together after the wedding, so over the past year her things had gradually infiltrated my space. Toothbrush. Clothes. Shoes. Makeup. Books. That stupid decorative throw pillow she insisted made the couch look more intentional. I gathered all of it. Every single item that belonged to her. Filled 4 large trash bags, carried them down to the dumpster behind the building, and threw them away. The dress she'd left for our friend's upcoming wedding. The expensive face cream she special ordered. The jewelry she kept in my bathroom drawer. Gone. All of it. Then I took out my phone and posted an Instagram story. Just a photo of an empty apartment. Clean. Organized. Peaceful. And a caption. Sometimes trash takes itself out. New chapter starts now. I didn't tag her. Didn't mention her name. But I didn't need to. Everyone in our social circle would know exactly what I was talking about. I posted it at 9 in the morning. Then I turned off my phone. I spent the rest of Friday in a weird calm. The kind that comes after a storm, when everything's destroyed but at least the wind has stopped. I cleaned my apartment, really cleaned it, the kind of deep clean where you move furniture and discover dust patterns that have been there for years. I went to the gym and ran until my legs burned and my lungs screamed. I got takeout from that Thai place Ashley hated. Watched a movie she would have complained about. For the first time in 3 days, I felt like I could breathe. Saturday morning, I turned my phone back on. That's when I saw the notifications. 107 missed calls, all from Ashley. 34 voicemails. More text messages than my phone could count. I scrolled through some of them, watching her emotional arc play out in real time. 3:47 p.m. Why did you post that? What's going on? 4:12 p.m. Call me right now. 4:58 p.m. What did you do with Mochi? The shelter called me saying someone dropped her off. 6:23 p.m. I can explain everything, just please pick up. 7:45 p.m. You threw away my clothes? You threw away my stuff? That's my property. 9:17 p.m. You're being so immature right now. Just talk to me like an adult. 11:34 p.m. I'm coming home early. We need to discuss this face to face. 1:28 a.m. I know you're seeing these. I know you're ignoring me on purpose. This is so childish. The voicemails were even better. I put the phone on speaker and played them while I made coffee. The first few were panicked. What happened? Why did you post that? Call me back right now, this isn't funny. Then they got angry. You had no right to throw away my things. That's theft. I could press charges. Then desperate. Please, just let me explain. It's not what you think. I swear it's not what it looks like. Then manipulative. You're really going to throw away 3 years over a misunderstanding? You're really that insecure? I thought you trusted me. The last one, left at 2 in the morning, was her crying. I made a mistake. I know I messed up. But we can fix this. We can work through this. Don't throw us away. Please. Too late, I thought. You already threw us away. In favor of a Hawaiian vacation with Marcus. I deleted all the voicemails without responding. But the texts kept coming. Even now, as I'm writing this, my phone keeps buzzing. She switched tactics. Now she's sending me paragraphs about how she made a terrible error in judgment, but she never stopped loving me and Marcus means nothing. It was just a moment of weakness. A moment of weakness that required weeks of planning and a fabricated dead mother. Her friends have started messaging me too. Apparently she's reached out to mutual acquaintances, spinning some version of events where I'm the villain. I'm getting texts from people I haven't talked to in months, asking why I freaked out and destroyed her stuff and abandoned her dog. I've been responding with screenshots. The Instagram story. The messages between her and Marcus. The timeline that proves she lied about everything. The replies have been satisfying. Oh my gosh. I had no idea. She told me you just randomly snapped. I'm so sorry, man. Watch how fast the narrative shifts when people see the evidence. But here's the thing that's eating at me, I don't feel victorious. I feel hollow. 3 years. 3 years of my life invested in someone who could look me in the eye and lie without flinching. 3 years of believing in a future that she'd already decided wasn't real. 3 years of love that was apparently negotiable. How do you come back from that? How do you ever trust anyone again when the person you trusted most could betray you so completely? I keep thinking about Tuesday night. Her crying on my couch. My arms around her. The way she gripped my shirt like I was her anchor. Had that been real? Had any of it been real? Or was I just a convenient placeholder, a safe option she kept around while she pined for someone else? My phone's ringing again. Ashley, attempt number 108. I'm not going to answer. Let me tell you what's going to happen next. She'll come back from Hawaii. She'll show up at my apartment, and when I don't let her in, she'll cause a scene. She'll cry, she'll beg, she'll promise it'll never happen again. She'll tell me she made a horrible mistake but that she's chosen me, that she wants to make it work. And maybe, if this had happened 6 months ago, before we were engaged, before we'd started planning a life together, I might have been tempted to believe her. Might have thought love was worth fighting for, that relationships require forgiveness, that everyone deserves a second chance. But not after this. Not after she used a dead mother as an alibi. That's the detail I can't get past. The sheer calculation required to weaponize someone's grief. The coldness of it. Emma's mom actually died, I checked, because at this point I don't trust anything, but Ashley saw that tragedy and immediately thought, how can I use this to my advantage? What kind of person does that? Not someone I want to marry. Not someone I want to build a life with. Not someone I can ever trust again. So here's what I'm actually going to do. I'm going to block her number. I'm going to block her on every social media platform. I'm going to box up anything I missed in my initial purge and have it delivered to her parents' house. I'm going to call the wedding venue and cancel, eat the deposit loss because it's cheaper than a divorce would be. I'm going to tell my family what happened before she can spin her version to them. I'm going to move forward. Because the alternative is staying trapped in this cycle, always wondering if she's telling the truth, always checking her phone when she leaves it unattended, always feeling this sick knot in my stomach when she says she's going out with friends. That's not a relationship. That's a prison sentence. I deserve better than that. The weirdest part? I'm actually grateful I found out now. Imagine if I hadn't seen that Instagram story. Imagine if she'd pulled this off successfully, come home all somber and sad, and I'd never known. We'd have gotten married. Maybe had kids. And then one day, years from now, I'd discover the truth, that our entire relationship was built on a foundation of lies. Better to know now. Better to rip the bandage off fast and bloody than to peel it slowly and make the pain last. My phone is still buzzing. 109 calls now. I'm going to stop answering this question. Stop thinking about her motivations, her justifications, her excuses. They don't matter anymore. What matters is what I do next, how I rebuild from here, how I learn to trust again without becoming cynical and bitter. That's going to be the hard part. Not the leaving, that's already done. But the healing. Figuring out how to open myself up to someone new without constantly waiting for the knife. Learning to take people at their word again without this voice in my head whispering, but Ashley seemed trustworthy too. I called my sister yesterday. She's the only person I've actually talked to about this, beyond the text exchanges with mutual friends. I told her everything, start to finish, and when I was done, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "You did the right thing." Did I? Part of me feels like I should have confronted her first, given her a chance to what? Lie more convincingly? Manipulate you into staying? No. You saw the evidence. You acted. That took guts. It doesn't feel like guts. It feels like I'm falling apart. Those aren't mutually exclusive, she said. You can be strong and hurt at the same time. That's what it means to be human. I appreciated that. The permission to feel multiple things at once. To be proud of standing up for myself while also grieving the loss of what I thought I had. Because I am grieving. Not for the real Ashley, the one who lied and cheated and planned elaborate schemes, but for the version of her I believed in. The woman I fell in love with. The future I'd imagined. That's all dead now, and it hurts just as much as if it had been real. Maybe more, because at least with death, there's no ambiguity. No wondering if you could have saved it. No second guessing your choices. This morning, I woke up to messages from people I haven't heard from in years. Apparently Ashley's having a complete breakdown. She's posted her own Instagram story, some long, rambling thing about how relationships are complicated and people make mistakes and everyone's showing their true colors. She didn't name me, but the subtext was clear, I'm the villain in her version. Fine. Let her tell her story. I have the screenshots. I have the truth. The people who matter will see through her spin. The people who don't matter can believe whatever they want. I'm sitting here now, in my clean apartment, in the quiet that used to feel lonely but now feels peaceful, and I'm realizing something. I don't need closure from her. I don't need an apology or an explanation or a tearful confession. I already have everything I need to move on. The truth. And the self-respect to walk away from someone who didn't value me. My phone just buzzed again. Number 110. I picked it up, scrolled to Ashley's contact, and hit block. The sudden silence is beautiful. I'm not going to pretend this is a happy ending. I'm not going to say I'm better off or that this was somehow a blessing in disguise or any of those platitudes people throw around to make devastating situations seem meaningful. This sucks. It's going to suck for a while. There will be nights when I miss her, or rather, miss the version of her I thought was real. There will be moments when I wonder if I overreacted, if I should have fought harder, if love is supposed to survive things like this. But I also know, with absolute certainty, that I made the right call. Because the foundation of any relationship is trust. And once that's shattered, once someone proves they're willing to construct elaborate lies and manipulate your emotions and use tragedy as a smokescreen for betrayal, there's no coming back from that. Not really. You can forgive, maybe. You can move forward. But you can never truly trust them again. And a relationship without trust isn't a relationship, it's just two people pretending. I'm done pretending. So here I am, single again at 32, starting over from scratch, dealing with the fallout of a failed engagement and a very public breakup. It's not where I thought I'd be. It's not what I wanted. But it's real. And after 3 years of living in a fantasy built on lies, real feels like solid ground. I'll take it. The phone's been quiet for 20 minutes now. Maybe Ashley finally got the message. Maybe she's on a plane back from Hawaii, rehearsing her speech, planning her grand gesture. It won't work. Because here's what she doesn't understand, she didn't just break my heart. She didn't just cheat. She revealed who she really is underneath the mask she'd been wearing for 3 years. And now that I've seen the real her, I can never unsee it. You can't unfree an egg. You can't unknow the truth. And I wouldn't want to. So if you're reading this, Ashley, and I know you probably are, because you'll hear about this post somehow, through our network of mutual friends who are probably forwarding it around as we speak, here's my final message to you. Thank you. Thank you for showing me exactly who you were before I made the biggest mistake of my life. Thank you for being so careless with your lies that I caught you. Thank you for giving me the clarity to walk away. I hope Hawaii was worth it. I hope Marcus is everything you wanted. And I hope, someday, when you're lying next to him and wondering if you can trust him, you'll remember this moment. You'll remember how easy it was to betray someone who loved you completely. And you'll realize that people who are capable of that level of deception can never truly trust anyone, including themselves. As for me, I'm going to be fine. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to be more cautious next time, but not cynical. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to trust my gut when something feels off instead of explaining it away. I'm going to remember that actions speak louder than words, and that the person you are in private is who you really are. And I'm going to find someone who doesn't need a dead mother and a fake trip to Hawaii to justify spending time with someone else. Someone who chooses me, clearly and consistently, without lies or manipulation or backup plans. Someone who understands that love isn't just a feeling, it's a series of choices you make every single day. Ashley made her choice. And now I've made mine. The phone's been silent for an hour now. The apartment feels bigger somehow, emptier but cleaner. Like I've opened all the windows and let out 3 years of stale air. I'm not happy. Not yet. But I'm free. And right now, that's enough. I walked to the window and looked out at the street below. People going about their Saturday, carrying groceries, walking dogs, living their lives. The world didn't stop because my relationship ended. Life just keeps going, indifferent to personal tragedy, and somehow that's comforting. I'm part of that flow again. Not stuck in the undertow of someone else's lies. My sister texted, "How are you holding up?" I blocked her. I wrote back, "Good. Proud of you. Come over for dinner tomorrow?" "Yeah. I'd like that." Family. That's what you learn you need when romantic love fails you. The people who were there before and will be there after. The relationships that don't require you to be anyone other than who you are. I'm going to be okay. It doesn't feel like it right now, in this moment, with the phantom buzz of notifications that aren't actually coming and the empty space in my closet where her things used to be and the strange absence of Mochi snoring in the next room. But I will be. Because I'm not the one who has to live with what I did. Ashley is. She's the one who threw away something real for something temporary. She's the one who'll have to explain this to her parents, her friends, everyone at the wedding who already bought plane tickets. She's the one who'll lie awake at 3 a.m, wondering if Marcus will do to her what she did to me. That's not my burden to carry anymore. I'm putting it down. I'm walking away. And I'm not looking back. The phone's been quiet for 2 hours now. The silence feels less empty and more peaceful with each passing minute. I'm learning to sit with it, to let it fill the spaces Ashley used to occupy. Tomorrow, I'll start the practical work, canceling the wedding, splitting up our shared accounts, figuring out the logistics of disentanglement. It won't be fun, but it'll be forward motion. Today, I'm just going to sit here. In my clean apartment. In the quiet. And I'm going to let myself feel everything, the anger, the sadness, the relief, the grief for something that never really existed. And then, eventually, I'm going to let it go. Because holding on to this will only poison me from the inside out. Ashley doesn't deserve that much power over my future. She had 3 years. She doesn't get 1 more minute. The sun's setting now, painting my walls orange and gold. It's beautiful. Simple. Real. I'm going to be okay. One day at a time. One step forward. Away from the lies and toward something true. Whatever that looks like. Wherever that takes me. I'm ready. Or at least, I thought I was ready. Sunday morning hit me like a freight train I didn't see coming. I woke up at 6, disoriented, reaching for my phone out of habit before remembering I'd blocked Ashley. No messages. No calls. Just the weather widget and a reminder that I had a dentist appointment next week. Normal. Mundane. The kind of notification you get when your life isn't imploding. But my chest felt heavy, like someone had parked a car on my ribcage while I slept. This is the part nobody talks about when they tell you to just leave a bad relationship. The aftermath. The mornings when you wake up and for 3 blissful seconds, you forget what happened, and then it all comes rushing back in a wave that makes you want to pull the covers over your head and hide from the world. I made coffee. Burned my toast. Stared at the empty spot where Mochi's food bowl used to be. The apartment felt wrong. Not just empty, wrong. Like a stage set after the play's over and the actors have gone home. Everything in its place but nothing feeling right. I was sitting at my kitchen table, watching steam rise from my mug, when someone knocked on my door. My stomach dropped. I knew who it was before I even looked through the peephole. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to sit there in silence until she gave up and left. But another part, the part that was still angry, still raw, still needing to confront the reality of what she'd done, made me open the door. Ashley stood in the hallway, and she looked terrible. Her eyes were swollen and red, makeup smeared down her cheeks like she'd been crying on the flight home and hadn't bothered to clean up. Her hair was tangled, pulled into a messy knot. She was wearing the same clothes from her Instagram story, that red bikini visible under an unbuttoned shirt she'd clearly thrown on in a hurry. For a split second, I felt bad for her. Then I remembered why she looked like that, and the sympathy evaporated. "We need to talk," she said. Her voice was hoarse, wrecked from crying or screaming or both. No, we don't. Please. Just give me 5 minutes. Let me explain. Explain what, Ashley? Explain how you used a dead woman as an excuse to cheat on me? Explain how you planned this for weeks? Explain the messages with Marcus where you laughed about how trusting I am? Her face crumpled. You went through my phone. The audacity of that statement nearly made me laugh. That's what you're upset about? Not the lying, not the cheating, you're mad that I found out? That's not, I didn't mean. She pressed her palms against her eyes. Can I please just come in? I don't want to do this in the hallway. No. Why are you being so difficult? And there it was. The shift. The moment when the tears stopped working and the real Ashley started showing through. Not sorry, frustrated that her manipulation wasn't landing. I'm being difficult? I kept my voice level, calm, which seemed to unsettle her more than yelling would have. Ashley, you fabricated an entire crisis. You cried on my couch about your friend's dead mother while planning a romantic getaway with your ex. You looked me in the eyes and lied without hesitation. And now you're at my door, demanding I let you in so you can spin more lies, and I'm the one being difficult? It wasn't like that? Then what was it like? Enlighten me. She hesitated, and I could see her brain working, trying to find the angle that would crack me open. The version of the story that would make me the bad guy, that would justify what she did, that would make me feel guilty for not forgiving her. Marcus and I. We have history. Complicated history. And when he reached out and said he needed to talk to me, to get closure on some things from our past, I panicked. I knew if I told you the truth, you'd freak out. So you lied. I made a mistake in how I handled it. You used a dead woman as your alibi, Ashley. That's not a mistake. That's calculated. Her jaw tightened. Emma's mom did die. That part was true. And Emma was devastated, and I wanted to be there for her, but Marcus said he was going to be in Hawaii at the same time, and I thought maybe I could do both. Be there for your grieving friend and sleep with your ex-boyfriend. Multitasking. I didn't sleep with him. Her voice rose, echoing down the hallway. A door opened somewhere down the corridor, then quickly closed again. She lowered her voice to a harsh whisper. We didn't sleep together. We just talked. That's it. We talked about our past and got closure, and that's all it was. I pulled out my phone and started scrolling. Found the screenshots I'd saved. Held it up so she could see the messages between her and Marcus. Want to try that again? Her face went pale. Where did you? Those are private. You're right. They were private. Private plans to cheat on your fiancé. Private jokes about how gullible I am. Private conversations about how much you couldn't wait to see him again. I lowered the phone. But sure, you just talked. About closure. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. I don't know what you want me to say. Nothing. I don't want you to say anything. I want you to leave. We're engaged. We were engaged. You're really going to throw away 3 years over this? You're not even going to try to work through it? And there was the manipulation I'd been expecting. The attempt to make this my failure, my unwillingness to fight for the relationship, my lack of commitment. Ashley, you threw away 3 years the moment you bought that plane ticket. You threw it away when you planned this trip with Marcus. You threw it away every single time you lied to my face, and I believed you because I loved you. I paused. Past tense. That landed. I watched her absorb it, watched the reality settle in that I wasn't negotiating. What about Mochi? Her voice broke. What did you do with my dog? Took her to the shelter. They have her. You gave away my dog? You had no right. You abandoned her to go on vacation with another man. I made sure she was taken care of. More than you did. I want my stuff back. My clothes, my jewelry, all of it. It's gone. What do you mean it's gone? I mean I threw it away. It's in a dumpster somewhere. Probably at a landfill by now. Her face went through several colors. That's my property. You can't just, that's illegal. Then call the police. Tell them your fiancé threw away your clothes after you cheated on him. I'm sure they'll be very sympathetic. She stared at me, and for a moment, I saw something flicker behind her eyes. Not remorse. Not regret. But calculation. She was trying to figure out her next move, which angle would work, how to salvage this. I can't believe you're being so cruel, she said finally, and fresh tears started falling. Real ones this time, I think. But not for me. For herself. For the consequences she was finally facing. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. I thought you loved me enough to forgive me. I did love you enough to forgive mistakes. But this wasn't a mistake, Ashley. Forgetting to call me back is a mistake. Snapping at me when you're tired is a mistake. Planning and executing an elaborate lie so you can spend a week with your ex-boyfriend isn't a mistake. It's a choice. A series of choices. And every single one of them was a betrayal. So that's it? You've just decided it's over and I don't get any say? You got your say when you booked the tickets to Hawaii. She wiped her eyes, smearing mascara further across her cheeks. My parents are going to be devastated. Everyone's going to ask what happened. Tell them the truth. The truth? You want me to tell everyone that that you cheated? Yes. Tell them that. Or don't. Tell them whatever story makes you feel better. But I'm not lying for you. If anyone asks me what happened, I'm going to tell them exactly what you did. Her expression hardened. You're going to turn everyone against me. No. You did that yourself. I'm just not covering for you anymore. We stood there in the doorway, this woman I'd planned to marry, looking at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Maybe the version of me who would have forgiven this, who would have believed her excuses and convinced himself that love conquers all, had died the moment I saw that Instagram story. I should have known, she said quietly. I should have known you'd react like this. Like what? Like someone with self-respect? Like someone who doesn't understand that relationships are complicated. That people are complicated. That love isn't black and white. You're right. Love isn't black and white. But lying is. Cheating is. You either do it or you don't. And you did. She shook her head slowly, and I could see her rewriting the narrative in real time. By tomorrow, I'd be the unreasonable one. The one who overreacted. The one who couldn't forgive. She'd paint herself as the victim of my cruelty, my unwillingness to work through problems, my cold decision to throw away a relationship over one mistake. Let her. I didn't need her version of events to be true. I just needed to know what actually happened. And I did. I'm going to get my dog back, she said, voice flat now, tears drying up. And then I'm going to call my lawyer about my property. Do what you need to do. You're really not going to fight for us at all? The question hung in the air between us, and I almost laughed at the absurdity of it. Fight for us. As if I was the one who'd given up. As if I was the one who'd stopped fighting the moment something better came along. Ashley, I fought for us every day for 3 years. I showed up. I was honest. I was faithful. I chose you, consistently, even when it would have been easier not to. You want to know who didn't fight for us? I paused. You. The moment you decided Marcus was worth lying for. So no, I'm not going to fight for us now. Because there is no us left to fight for. You killed it. She flinched like I'd slapped her. I hope it was worth it, I said quietly. I hope he makes you happy. I genuinely mean that. Because at least then all of this destruction would have a point. He doesn't, it's not, we're not together. It was just, I don't care. And the crazy thing was, I meant it. I didn't care if she ended up with Marcus or someone else or alone. It wasn't my problem anymore. She wasn't my problem anymore. I should go, she said, but she didn't move. Yeah. You should. Another beat of silence. Then she turned and walked down the hallway, her footsteps echoing off the walls. I watched until she turned the corner, until I heard the elevator ding, until I was sure she was gone. Then I closed the door, locked it, and slid down to sit on the floor with my back against the wood. And I cried. Not for her. Not for the relationship. But for the time lost. For the version of my future I believed in. For the innocence of thinking that if you just love someone hard enough, they'll love you back the same way. I cried because I was tired. Tired of being angry, tired of feeling betrayed, tired of replaying every moment and looking for the signs I missed. I cried because it was over, and even though it needed to be over, even though staying would have destroyed me slowly from the inside out, endings hurt. Even necessary ones. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough that my legs went numb. Long enough that the light coming through my window shifted from morning to afternoon. Long enough that I cycled through every emotion and came out the other side feeling empty but clean. Eventually, I stood up. Washed my face. Made more coffee. My phone buzzed. Not Ashley, I blocked her. It was my buddy Jason. Dude. Just heard. You okay? Word travels fast. Someone must have seen Ashley in my building, or maybe she'd already started her PR campaign, spinning the story to make herself look better. Yeah. I'm okay. Need anything? Want to grab a drink later? I thought about it. Sitting alone in my apartment, marinating in the silence, or going out and pretending to be normal for a few hours. Actually, yeah. That sounds good. Cool. 7? The usual place? See you there. I spent the rest of the afternoon doing normal things. Laundry. Dishes. Organizing my closet now that half of it was empty. Mundane tasks that felt grounding, that reminded me life continues even when your heart's been rearranged. At 6, I showered and changed. Looked at myself in the mirror. I looked tired. Older, somehow. Like I'd aged a year in the past 72 hours. But I also looked free. The bar was crowded when I arrived, full of Sunday night energy, people squeezing in one last bit of fun before the work week started. Jason was already there, 2 beers on the table, looking at me with that expression people get when they don't know what to say but want to help. Hey, man. Hey. We sat. Drank. Didn't talk about Ashley for a full 10 minutes, which I appreciated. Jason told me about his job, his annoying coworker, his sister's upcoming wedding. Normal stuff. Life stuff. The kind of conversation that reminded me the world was bigger than my failed relationship. Finally, he said, "So, you want to talk about it?" Not really. But I probably should. I gave him the abbreviated version. The fake trip. The Instagram story. The confrontation this morning. He listened without interrupting, his expression getting progressively more shocked. "Oh crap," he said when I finished. I knew she could be manipulative sometimes, but that's next level." "You knew she was manipulative?" He shifted uncomfortably. Look, she was your fiancée. I wasn't going to say anything. But yeah, there were times when I'd see how she'd twist things, make herself the victim even when she'd clearly started the problem. Remember that fight you guys had about the wedding guest list? Yeah? She told everyone you were being controlling about not inviting her ex-coworkers. Made you sound like the bad guy. But you told me privately it was because the venue had a cap and you were trying to make room for both your families. I'd forgotten about that. Or maybe I'd filed it away in the part of my brain labeled things I don't want to think about because they'll make me question everything. Why didn't you say something? Jason shrugged. Would you have listened? You loved her. You would have thought I was just being jealous or negative or whatever. People who are in love don't want to hear that the person they're with isn't good for them. He was right. If he'd tried to warn me 6 months ago, I would have defended her. Made excuses. Convinced myself he just didn't understand our relationship. I'm sorry you had to find out like this, Jason said. But honestly, I think you dodged a bullet. Better now than after the wedding. Everyone keeps saying that. Because it's true. Imagine if you'd married her and then found out. Imagine if you'd had kids with her. I had imagined it, actually. Multiple times over the past 48 hours. The alternate timeline where I didn't see that Instagram story, where she successfully pulled off the deception. We'd have gotten married. I'd have trusted her completely. And then maybe years down the line, I'd discover the truth, and it would destroy not just me but a whole family. The thought made me nauseous. You're going to be okay, Jason said, clinking his beer against mine. I know it doesn't feel like it right now. But you will. Everyone keeps telling me that too. That's because everyone who's been through a bad breakup knows it's true. It sucks now. It'll suck for a while. And then one day you'll wake up and realize you haven't thought about her in 24 hours. And then that'll turn into a week. And then a month. And then she'll just be this person you used to know, this thing that happened to you once, and you'll wonder why you wasted so much energy being sad about someone who didn't deserve you in the first place. I wanted to believe him. Wanted to fast forward through the pain and grief and anger to the part where I was healed and happy and this was just a bad memory. But healing doesn't work like that. You have to walk through it, not around it. We stayed at the bar until close, talking and laughing and not mentioning Ashley again. For a few hours, I felt almost normal. Like maybe Jason was right. Like maybe I really would be okay. When I got home, I checked my phone. No new messages from Ashley, the block was holding. But there was a message from an unknown number. This is Emma. Ashley's friend. I just wanted you to know that my mom really did die, and I really was grieving, and Ashley really did help me through it. But I also want you to know that Marcus was there the whole time. She lied to both of us. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. You deserve better. I stared at that message for a long time. So Emma hadn't known either. Ashley had used her genuine grief as cover, had pretended to be the supportive friend while secretly meeting up with Marcus. She'd lied to everyone. Weaponized tragedy. Manipulated multiple people simultaneously. Who does that? Someone who's done it before. Someone who'll do it again. Someone who sees people as tools to get what she wants rather than human beings with feelings. I deleted the message. Not because I was angry at Emma, she was a victim in this too, but because I didn't want any connection to Ashley in my phone, even secondhand ones. I was done. Really, truly done. I went to bed that night and slept for 10 hours straight. No dreams. No waking up in a panic. Just deep, dreamless sleep. When I woke up Monday morning, the world looked different. Brighter, maybe. Or maybe I was just seeing it clearly for the first time in 3 years, without the filter of Ashley's lies distorting everything. My phone was quiet. No notifications. No drama. Just a reminder about that dentist appointment and a message from my sister asking if I wanted to come over for dinner Wednesday. Normal. Simple. Real. I made coffee and didn't burn the toast. It felt like a start. Story 2. After 12 years of raising her son, on Father's Day, my wife handed me a card her son made, for his real dad in prison. She said, "He wants to meet his father. You need to step aside now. They spent the evening looking at old photos of him, laughing at memories I wasn't part of. I contacted a lawyer, discovered I had no legal rights since I never adopted him, withdrew my name from their mortgage I'd been paying, and left a note. I stepped aside. Completely. I need you to understand something right from the start. I'm not a victim. I refuse to be one. But what happened to me 12 years ago, what ended 3 months ago, that's the kind of thing that makes you question every single instinct you've ever had about people. About love. About what it means to build a family. So here it is, raw and ugly. On Father's Day this year, my wife handed me a handmade card. Construction paper, markers, the works. I thought it was from her son, our son, the kid I'd raised since he was 3. The kid whose nightmares I'd soothed, whose bike I'd taught him to ride, whose science projects I'd stayed up until midnight finishing. I opened it with this stupid grin on my face. It wasn't for me. It was addressed to Dad in big, careful letters. Inside, there was a drawing of a man behind bars, stick figure stuff, but clear enough, and the words, "I can't wait to finally meet you. Love, Marcus." I stood there in our kitchen, card in hand, while my wife watched me. Not with guilt. Not with apology. With this cold, expectant look, like she was waiting for me to accept something. "He wants to meet his father," she said. Her voice was flat, businesslike. "His real father. Derek's been writing to him for 6 months now. It's time, Nathan. You need to step aside." Step aside. Like I was blocking a view. Like I was some temporary fixture that had overstayed its welcome. I want to back up, because you need context for why this felt like getting hit by a truck. Actually, no, trucks are predictable. This was more like the ground just opening up beneath me and discovering there was nothing underneath. Just free fall. I met Vanessa when Marcus was 3. I was 29, she was 27, and we matched on one of those apps everyone pretends they're too good for. She was upfront about having a kid, which I respected. Said the father was out of the picture, which I took to mean an ex who'd bailed. Deadbeat dad situation. Happens all the time. Our first few dates were normal. Good, even. She was funny, sharp, had this way of calling me out when I was being too careful with my words. She worked as a paralegal, talked about going back to school for her law degree someday. Showed me pictures of Marcus, tow-headed little guy with a gap in his front teeth and her eyes. "He's my whole world," she told me over coffee. "Any guy I date needs to understand that. He comes first. Always." I remember thinking that was exactly right. That's how a mother should be. Green flag, you know? I met Marcus about 2 months in. He was shy at first, hid behind Vanessa's legs when I showed up at her apartment with a bag of groceries. She'd mentioned she was too tired to cook that week, so I figured I'd help. I didn't push. Just made dinner, let him warm up on his own terms. By dessert, he was showing me his Hot Wheels collection, crashing them into each other and making explosion sounds. Vanessa watched us from the kitchen doorway. I caught her smiling. 3 months later, I started staying over on weekends. 6 months after that, Vanessa asked if I wanted to move in. Her lease was up, she said, and her place was too small anyway. We could find something bigger together. Give Marcus a real yard to play in. It felt fast, but it felt right. I'd never been around kids much before Marcus, but with him it was easy. Natural. He'd climb into my lap during movies, ask me to read him bedtime stories, call me Nathan, but in that way kids do when they're testing if they're allowed to love you yet. I never asked about his father. Vanessa had said he wasn't involved, and I didn't want to pry. Some wounds you don't poke at, you know? I figured if she wanted to tell me, she would. We moved into a 3-bedroom rental in a decent neighborhood. Good school district, parked 2 blocks away. I paid the security deposit and first month's rent. Vanessa was between jobs at the time, something about her boss being impossible to work for, so I covered utilities and groceries too. Not a big deal. That's what you do when you're building something with someone. Marcus started calling me Dad when he was 5. Just dropped it casually one morning over cereal, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Dad, can we go to the park today?" I almost choked on my coffee. Looked at Vanessa. She smiled, squeezed my hand across the table, said, "If that's okay with you." Okay with me? I felt like I'd won something I didn't know I was competing for. We got married when Marcus was 7. Small ceremony, mostly Vanessa's family and a few friends. Marcus was our ring bearer, took the job so seriously he walked down the aisle like he was carrying nuclear codes. People laughed. I cried a little. Not ashamed to admit it. Vanessa looked beautiful. Said her vows like she meant them. Promised to be my partner, my best friend, my home. I believed every word. That night, after the reception, after Marcus was asleep at Vanessa's sister's place, she told me something I'd been waiting to hear for years. "Derek's in prison," she said. We were lying in bed in our hotel room, still in our wedding clothes, too tired to change. That's why he's not around. Marcus's father. I should have told you earlier, But I didn't want you to judge me. Judge us. I rolled over to face her. Her makeup was smudged, hair falling out of its pins. She looked vulnerable in a way I rarely saw. What happened? I asked. He was involved in some bad things. Drugs, mostly. Got caught with enough that they gave him 15 years. He signed away his parental rights when Marcus was 2. Said he didn't want to be a father from behind bars. She was crying a little. I pulled her close, stroked her hair. That must have been terrifying, I said. Raising a baby alone, dealing with all that. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Her voice was muffled against my chest. But then I found you. You saved us, Nathan. You gave us a real life. I remember feeling this surge of purpose, like everything I'd been through, the mediocre jobs, the failed relationships before her, the years of wondering if I'd ever find my place. It all made sense because it led me to them. I'll always take care of you, I told her. Both of you. I promise. I meant it with everything I had. A year later, we bought a house. Well, she bought a house. It was in her name for tax reasons, she explained. Something about her credit score being better, some first-time homebuyer program she qualified for. Made sense at the time. I wasn't precious about whose name was on what. We were married. What's mine is yours, all that. But I paid the down payment. $28,000. My entire savings, accumulated over years of working IT support for a medical supply company. Not glamorous, but steady. Good benefits. I also paid the mortgage every month. Vanessa's paralegal salary was too inconsistent, she said. Billable hours were unpredictable. So I covered the mortgage, the utilities, the car payments, groceries, Marcus's school expenses, his sports equipment, his birthday parties, his summer camps. I'm not trying to sound like a martyr. I'm just establishing facts. Vanessa handled the household money. She was better with finances, she said. More organized. She'd show me spreadsheets sometimes, proof that every dollar was accounted for. I never looked too closely. I trusted her. Marcus was thriving. Honor roll student, played soccer, had a good group of friends. He still called me dad. Still told me about his day, asked my advice on things, hugged me unprompted. The kid was my whole world. I didn't need biology to make that real. People would comment sometimes. He doesn't look much like you. I'd just shrug, say something like, he got his mom's looks, lucky for him. No one pushed it. Most people probably assumed I was his biological father. I never corrected them. Didn't seem necessary. But I never formally adopted him. That's the detail that ended up destroying me, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Vanessa would sometimes mention it. We should make it official, she'd say. Do the adoption paperwork. So he's legally yours. I'd agree, say we should look into it, but there was always something else. Always another expense, another thing that took priority. New roof. Marcus's braces. Vanessa's car transmission. Life, you know? The adoption thing felt like a formality anyway. I was already his father in every way that mattered. Or so I thought. The first crack appeared about 4 years into our marriage. Small thing, barely noticeable at the time. I came home early from work one day, had a dental appointment that got cancelled, and found Vanessa on the phone in our bedroom. She was laughing in this way I hadn't heard in a while. Light, girlish. The door was cracked, and I heard her say, I know. It's complicated. But I think about it sometimes. She heard me in the hallway and her voice changed instantly. Professional. Clipped. I need to go. Talk later. Hung up fast. Who was that? I asked, casual as I could manage. My sister. Too quick. Too practiced. Which one? Rachel. She was just complaining about her husband again. You know how she is. I did know. Rachel was a complainer. The explanation fit. But something about Vanessa's face, the way her eyes didn't quite meet mine, felt wrong. I let it go. You do that in relationships, right? You give people the benefit of the doubt. You don't turn into a paranoid detective over one weird phone call. But after that, I started noticing things. The way she'd angle her phone away from me when texting. How she'd started taking her laptop to the coffee shop to focus better on weekends. Little withdrawals, subtle but accumulating. I asked her once if everything was okay. If we were okay. Of course, she said, smiling that public smile she used with strangers. Why would you ask that? I don't know. You seem distant lately. I'm just stressed about work. New boss is a nightmare. She kissed my cheek. You worry too much. Maybe I did. So I stopped asking. Marcus turned 12 in March. We threw him a party at one of those trampoline places. Invited his whole class, ordered pizza, did the cake thing. He was happy. Kept jumping with his friends, laughing so hard he could barely breathe. On the way home, he was quiet in the backseat. I glanced at him in the rearview mirror. Good party? I asked. Yeah. Thanks, Dad. But he was looking out the window, expression somewhere else entirely. Something on your mind, buddy? He hesitated. Vanessa shot him a look I couldn't quite read. Just tired, he said finally. I didn't push it. Kids get moody at that age. It's normal. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that Vanessa had already started bringing Derek back into the picture. Started telling Marcus about his real father. Started facilitating letters between them. She did this without telling me. Without discussing it. Without giving me any warning that the foundation of our family was about to collapse. Father's Day fell on a Sunday in June. I woke up to the smell of bacon. Vanessa was making breakfast, which was unusual. She wasn't much of a morning person. Marcus was setting the table, also unusual. They were both smiling in this nervous, excited way that made me think they'd planned something special. My chest felt warm. Stupid, grateful warm. I sat down, poured coffee, waited for whatever surprise they'd cooked up. Maybe tickets to a baseball game. Marcus had been hinting about wanting to see the Mariners play. That's when Vanessa handed me the card. I already told you what it said. But I didn't tell you how it felt to read those words. To see that stick figure drawing of a man behind bars. To realize that while I'd been paying for everything, showing up for everything, being there for everything, my wife had been systematically replacing me. He wants to meet his father, Vanessa said again, because I hadn't responded the first time. I was still staring at the card, trying to make the words mean something different. Derek's been writing to him. They've been getting to know each other through letters. It's time for them to meet in person. My throat was tight. How long? 6 months. You've been letting him write to a convicted felon for 6 months? Without telling me? He's not a felon. He's Marcus's father. I'm Marcus's father. My voice cracked. I hated that it cracked. Vanessa's expression hardened. Biologically, Nathan, you're not. And Derek served his time. He's changed. He wants to be part of Marcus's life again. That's his right. I looked at Marcus. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Just sat there pushing eggs around his plate, looking like he wanted to disappear. Marcus? I said. Gentle as I could manage. Is this what you want? He shrugged. Small. Miserable. I just want to meet him. See what he's like. We're taking him to visit next weekend, Vanessa continued, like it was already decided. Like I had no say. Derek's at the correction facility in Walla Walla. Visiting hours are Saturday afternoon. We? Marcus and me. Without me. This isn't about you, Nathan. That sentence. That one sentence. It echoed in my head like a gong. This isn't about you. 12 years. 12 years of bedtime stories and school pickups and soccer practices and homework help and birthday parties and skinned knees and nightmare comfort and science fair projects and parent-teacher conferences and Christmas mornings and family dinners and every single ordinary, extraordinary moment that makes up a childhood. None of it was about me. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I just got up from the table, went to our bedroom, and closed the door. Sat on the edge of the bed. Stared at the wall. Heard them talking in low voices in the kitchen. Then the sound of plates being cleared. The TV turning on. Normal Sunday sounds. Like nothing had just detonated. I stayed in that room for 3 hours. Thinking. Processing. Trying to understand how I'd missed this. What I'd done wrong. How to fix it. Eventually, I came out. Marcus was in the living room playing video games. Vanessa was on the couch scrolling through her phone. Can we talk? I asked her. She sighed like I was inconveniencing her. About what? About this. About us. About. There's nothing to talk about, she said. Derek is Marcus's father. He has the right to know his son. You need to accept that and step aside. There it was again. Step aside. What does that mean? I asked. Step aside how? It means stop acting like you're his only parent. Stop trying to control everything. Let Derek have a relationship with him. I'm not trying to control anything. I'm trying to understand what's happening to our family. Your family, she corrected. Marcus and I are a family. We were a family before you, and we'll be a family after you. The words hung there. After you. Are you leaving me? I asked. She didn't answer right away. Just looked at me with this calculating expression, like she was running numbers in her head. I don't know, she said finally. I haven't decided yet. That night, they spent hours looking at old photos. Vanessa pulled out boxes I'd never seen before, filled with pictures of her and Derek from before Marcus was born. Young and happy and wrapped around each other. They sat on the couch together, Vanessa and Marcus, flipping through them, laughing at memories I wasn't part of. That's when we went to the lake, Vanessa said, pointing at a photo. Your dad caught a fish this big. Fell off the boat trying to reel it in. Marcus laughed. Real laughter. The kind I hadn't heard from him in months. I stood in the hallway, watching. Invisible. At one point, Marcus looked up and saw me there. His smile faltered. He looked guilty, like he'd been caught doing something wrong. But Vanessa didn't even glance my direction. Just kept flipping pages, kept sharing stories, kept building this alternate history where I didn't exist. I went to bed alone that night. Vanessa slept on the couch. Said she wanted to stay up late with Marcus, that it was important. I lay in the dark, listening to their voices through the wall. Listening to the sound of my family reforming without me. Monday morning, I called a lawyer. Guy named Paul Hendricks, came recommended from a coworker who'd gone through a rough divorce. I explained the situation. Paul listened, asked clarifying questions, took notes. "Let me make sure I understand," he said. "You've been raising this child since he was 3. You're married to his mother. You've been financially supporting the household. But you never formally adopted him. Right. And his biological father signed away parental rights when the child was 2. That's what Vanessa told me. We'll need to verify that. But Nathan, here's the issue: if you never adopted Marcus, you have no legal rights to him. None. Not custody, not visitation, not decision-making. In the eyes of the law, you're a step-parent without legal standing. But I've been his father for 9 years. I understand. And I'm not minimizing that relationship. I'm telling you what the law says. Unless you adopted him, or unless his biological father's rights were terminated and you were granted some form of legal guardianship, you have no claim." The floor dropped out again. Free fall. "What about the house?" I asked. "I paid the down payment. I've been paying the mortgage." "Whose name is on the title?" "Hers." "Both of you?" "Just hers." Paul was quiet for a moment. "Did you contribute to the down payment?" "All of it. $28,000. "Do you have documentation? Bank records, canceled checks?" "Yes." "Good. That helps. In Washington, we're a community property state, so anything acquired during the marriage is typically split 50-50 in a divorce. You'd likely be entitled to half the equity in the home, plus reimbursement for separate funds you contributed." "But Nathan..." He paused. "If you're not planning to divorce her, and if she's not leaving you, then none of this matters. You'd just be living in a house you're paying for but don't own. And if I stop paying? Then the bank forecloses, her credit is destroyed, and you're both out on the street. Not recommended." I thanked him, hung up, sat in my parked car outside the office for 20 minutes. Then I called him back. "File for divorce," I said. The paperwork took 2 weeks to prepare. During that time, I kept paying the bills. Kept showing up for dinner. Kept pretending everything was normal. Vanessa barely spoke to me. Marcus avoided eye contact. The house felt like a museum of our former life, everything still in place, but cold. Lifeless. Saturday came. The prison visit. Vanessa and Marcus left at 9 in the morning. She didn't say goodbye. Just grabbed her purse, grabbed the car keys, told Marcus to get his shoes on. He paused at the door. Looked back at me. "Bye, Nathan," he said. Quiet. Almost apologetic. "Not Dad. Nathan." The name change hurt worse than anything else. They came home 8 hours later. Marcus went straight to his room. Vanessa was glowing. Animated in a way I hadn't seen in years. It went so well, she said to no one in particular. "Derek's amazing with him." They talked for 2 hours straight. Marcus didn't want to leave. "That's great," I said. Flat. Empty. She finally looked at me. Really looked at me. "Are you okay?" "No. Nathan, this doesn't change anything between us." "Yes, it does." "You're overreacting." "Am I?" I stood up from the couch. "You brought another man into our family. You did it secretly. You did it knowing exactly how I'd feel about it. And you told me to step aside. So I'm stepping aside, Vanessa. Completely." "What does that mean?" I handed her an envelope. "Divorce papers." Her face went white. "You're joking." "Do I look like I'm joking?" "Nathan, come on. We can work through this." "Work through what? You replacing me?" "I'm not replacing you. Derek is Marcus's biological father. That's just a fact. It doesn't erase what you've been to him." "Then why did he call me Nathan yesterday? Why did he stop calling me Dad?" She didn't have an answer for that. "I also withdrew my name from the mortgage," I continued. My voice was calm. Eerily calm. "Called the bank Friday afternoon. They're sending you updated paperwork. As of Monday, you're solely responsible for all payments. You can't do that. We'll lose the house." "Not my problem anymore. It was never my house anyway. Just my money." "Nathan, please. Don't do this. You told me to step aside. I'm stepping aside." I'd already moved most of my things out over the past 2 weeks. Slowly, carefully, while she was at work. Clothes, books, personal items. Rented a storage unit across town. Found a month-to-month studio apartment near my office. That night, I packed the last of it. Laptop, phone chargers, the framed photo of Marcus's first soccer game that used to sit on my nightstand. Loaded everything into my car. Vanessa watched from the porch. Crying now. Too late for that. Where are you going? She called. Away. What about Marcus? What about him? I have no legal rights, remember? Not my son. Not my problem. You don't mean that. I do. Marcus appeared in the doorway behind her. He looked small. Scared. Like he'd just realized what he'd set in motion. Dad? He said. I stopped. Turned around. Looked at him. You wanted your real dad, I said. You got him. I hope he's everything you need. Marcus's face crumpled. He started crying. I didn't mean. Yeah, you did. Vanessa stepped forward. Nathan, don't punish him for my mistakes. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm just done being convenient. Done being the backup plan. Done being invisible. I got in my car. Started the engine. Marcus ran down the driveway. Banged on my window. Please don't go. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I looked at him. This kid I'd raised. This kid I'd loved with everything I had. And I felt nothing. Just numb. I drove away. The divorce took 4 months to finalize. Vanessa fought me on everything, the house equity, the spousal support, the division of assets. But Paul was good. Better than good. He documented every dollar I'd contributed, every payment I'd made. Built an airtight case. In the process, we discovered some interesting things. Like the fact that Derek never actually signed away his parental rights. Vanessa had lied about that on our wedding night. He still had legal standing as Marcus's father, which explained why she'd been so comfortable reconnecting them. She'd been planning this longer than I realized. We also found out she'd been in contact with Derek for over a year before that Father's Day bombshell. Letters, phone calls through the prison system, even money transfers to his commissary account. My money, technically. Community property and all that. She'd been using our joint account to fund her ex's ramen noodles and phone cards. Paul had a field day with that in court. I got half the equity in the house. $73,000, when all was said and done. Also got my car, my retirement accounts, and no alimony obligations since Washington doesn't recognize step-parent obligations unless there's a formal adoption. Vanessa had to sell the house. Couldn't afford the mortgage on her own. Last I heard, she and Marcus moved into an apartment on the other side of town. Derek got out of prison 2 months ago. Apparently, he's living with them now. Full circle, I guess. The weeks after I moved out were strange. Quiet in a way I wasn't used to. No soccer practice schedules to track. No homework to supervise. No one asking what's for dinner or where their cleats are or whether they can sleep over at a friend's house. Just me and 400 square feet of furnished apartment that smelled like the previous tenant's air freshener. Artificial lavender. I hated it. I threw myself into work. Took on extra projects, volunteered for the weekend shifts nobody wanted. My boss noticed. You doing okay, Nathan? You're here more than I am. Just want to stay busy, I said. He nodded. Didn't push. I appreciated that. But the truth was, staying busy didn't help. Because the memories had nothing to do with being idle. They'd ambush me at random moments. I'd be debugging code and suddenly remember teaching Marcus to tie his shoes, the way his little fingers fumbled with the laces, how proud he looked when he finally got it right. I'd be grocery shopping and reach for the Cheez-Its he liked before catching myself. I'd pass a park and see kids playing soccer and have to keep walking before something inside me broke. The worst was the dreams. In them, Marcus was always 5 or 6. Small enough to carry when he got tired. Young enough to think I hung the moon. We'd be doing normal things, playing catch, building Lego sets, reading before bed. And he'd look up at me with those eyes that matched Vanessa's and say, "Love you, Dad." Then I'd wake up. Remember. And the grief would hit fresh all over again. My therapist, Dr. Chen, said it was complicated grief. Mourning someone who's still alive but lost to you anyway. You're grieving multiple losses simultaneously, she explained during one of our sessions. The loss of your role as a father. The loss of your marriage. The loss of your identity as part of that family unit. And perhaps most painfully, the loss of who you thought these people were. I just don't understand how I missed it, I said. The signs must have been there. I should have seen this coming. Should you have? Or are you retrofitting the narrative now that you know the ending? I thought about that. Maybe both. Nathan, manipulative people are good at manipulation. That's what makes them effective. They know how to present exactly what you want to see. Vanessa needed a provider, a father figure for Marcus, financial stability. You provided all of that. Why would she show you anything that might jeopardize the arrangement? So I was just useful. You were used, she corrected. There's a difference. One suggests mutual benefit. The other suggests exploitation. The word hung in the air. Exploitation. I love that kid, I said quietly. I still do. How messed up is that? It's not messed up at all. Love doesn't come with an off switch. What happened doesn't erase 12 years of genuine connection. Your feelings were real, even if her motivations were questionable. But I can't have a relationship with him. I have no legal standing. No, you can't. Not unless both biological parents agree to let you. And given the circumstances, that seems unlikely. I nodded. Knew she was right. Didn't make it easier. Marcus tried to reach out a few times. Emails, mostly. Long, rambling apologies about how he didn't understand what he was doing, how he missed me, how Derek wasn't what he thought he'd be. The first email came about 3 weeks after I moved out. Nathan, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need to say I'm sorry. I didn't know Mom was going to tell you to leave. I just wanted to meet Derek because I was curious. I didn't mean for everything to fall apart. Can we talk? Marcus. I stared at it for an hour. Drafted and deleted a dozen responses. Finally closed the laptop without replying. The second email came 2 weeks later. Nathan, please answer me. I really need to talk to you. Derek is not like I thought. He's different than in the letters. He yells a lot and Mom is stressed all the time. I told her I made a mistake and she said it's too late now. Please. I miss you. Marcus. That one was harder to ignore. But I did. The third email arrived a month after that. I guess you hate me. I understand. I hate me too. I just want you to know that you were a better dad than Derek ever was or will be. I'm sorry I was too stupid to see it before I ruined everything. I hope you're happy wherever you are. I hope you have a better life without us. Marcus. I read that one 3 times. Then I called Paul. Can he keep contacting me? I asked. Is he threatening you? No. Just apologizing. Then technically, yes. You could block him, but unless he's harassing you, there's no legal remedy. What if I want to respond? To see him? Paul was quiet for a moment. Nathan, I'm going to give you some advice as your attorney and someone who's watched you go through this. Don't. You have no legal rights. Any relationship you build with Marcus now exists entirely at Vanessa's discretion. And from what we saw in the divorce proceedings, she's not exactly invested in your well-being. But what if she agrees? She won't. And even if she did, what happens when Derek decides he doesn't like you hanging around? Or when Marcus gets in trouble and they need someone to blame? You'll be the first target. You have no protections, Nathan. None. So I just abandon him? You're not abandoning him. You were forced out. There's a difference. I knew he was right. But knowing didn't make it feel any better. I blocked Marcus's email address that night. It felt like cutting off a limb. Necessary but excruciating. 3 months post-divorce, I ran into Vanessa's sister Rachel at the grocery store. Literally ran into her. I was checking my phone and walked straight into her cart. Nathan? She looked shocked. Then guilty. Hey, Rachel. We stood there in the produce section, both of us clearly wanting to be anywhere else. How are you? She asked finally. Fine. You? Good. Listen, she glanced around like she was checking for eavesdroppers. I need you to know I didn't know what Vanessa was planning. None of us did. When she told us about reconnecting Marcus with Derek, we thought you were on board with it. I wasn't. I know that now. And for what it's worth, I think she's making a huge mistake. Derek's bad news. Always has been. Then why is everyone supporting her? Rachel sighed. Because she's family. Because she's convincing when she wants to be. Because. She trailed off. Because what? Because she told everyone you were controlling. That you were trying to prevent Marcus from knowing his real father. That you were jealous and possessive. The words hit like a punch. She what? I didn't believe it, Rachel said quickly. I know you. You were good to them. But Vanessa has this way of spinning things. She always has. Even when we were kids, she could make herself the victim in any situation. Is Marcus okay? Rachel's expression darkened. No. Derek's got a temper. I've heard things. Vanessa won't admit it, but I think she's in over her head. Should I? There's nothing you can do, Rachel interrupted. Legally, I mean. Derek's his father. Unless there's documented abuse, no one can intervene. And if there is abuse? Then you call CPS. But be prepared for Vanessa to deny everything and paint you as a bitter ex trying to cause trouble. We parted ways after that. I sat in my car in the parking lot for 20 minutes, groceries melting in the back seat, trying to decide what to do. In the end, I did nothing. Because Rachel was right. I had no standing. No leverage. No way to help even if I wanted to. That realization hurt worse than anything Vanessa had said on Father's Day. Dr. Chen asked me once what I wanted out of our sessions. What outcome I was hoping for. I just want to stop feeling like this, I said. Like what? Like I lost everything that mattered. Like I'm mourning a family that never actually existed. What if it did exist? She asked. What if, for Marcus, it was real? I looked at her. What do you mean? Children aren't capable of the kind of calculated manipulation adults are. When Marcus called you dad, when he hugged you, when he spent time with you, do you think he was faking that? No, but then it was real. For him. Your relationship was real, Nathan. The fact that it was destroyed by adult decisions doesn't retroactively erase 12 years of genuine connection. I wanted to believe that. But it was hard. The problem is, I said slowly, if it was real for him, then I hurt him by leaving. And if it wasn't real, then I wasted 12 years on a lie. Either way, I lose. Or, Dr. Chen said gently, you accept that both things can be true. That your relationship was meaningful and that you were also put in an impossible position. That loving someone doesn't mean you're obligated to stay when they allow you to be pushed out. It took me weeks to really hear what she was saying. To understand that I could grieve Marcus while also recognizing I'd made the only choice available to me. Around month 5, I started dating again. Not seriously. Just casual coffee dates, apps I'd swiped through late at night when the apartment felt too quiet. Mostly it was awkward small talk with strangers who felt like work. Then I met Diane. She was a project manager for a construction company. Divorced, no kids, liked hiking and had opinions about coffee roasts. We matched on a Thursday, met for drinks that Saturday, and ended up talking until the bar closed. On our third date, I told her about Marcus and Vanessa. The whole story. I don't know why, we were walking through a park and there were kids playing, and it just came out. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a while. That's brutal, she said finally. I'm sorry you went through that. Thanks. Can I ask you something? Sure. Are you over it? I thought about lying. Saying yes, of course, it's been months, I'm fine. But something about the way she was looking at me, direct, no judgment, made me tell the truth. No. I don't think I am. I don't know if I ever will be. She nodded. Okay. Okay? Yeah. Okay. I appreciate you being honest about it. Means I know what I'm getting into. We kept seeing each other after that. Slowly. No pressure. She never pushed me to move on or get over it. Just let me exist wherever I was in the process. It helped. Not enough to fix anything, but enough to remind me that not everyone was Vanessa. That some people actually meant what they said. Month 7, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten, addressed to my new apartment. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting immediately. Marcus. My hand shook as I opened it. Nathan, I know you blocked my email. I don't blame you. But I found your address through Mom's old papers and I need you to read this. You don't have to write back. I just need you to know. Derek hits Mom. Not all the time, but enough. He hasn't hit me yet, but he gets close. Yells a lot. Breaks things. The apartment is always tense and I walk on eggshells constantly. I know it's my fault. I know if I hadn't asked to meet him, none of this would have happened. You and Mom would still be together. We'd still be in the house. I'd still have a dad who actually gave a damn about me. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I understand now what I threw away. I had everything and I destroyed it because I was curious about some fantasy version of a father I'd never met. Derek's not a fantasy. He's a nightmare. And there's no way to go back. I miss you. I'm sorry. Marcus. I read it 5 times. Then I called Paul again. He says Derek's abusive, I told him. Hitting Vanessa. Threatening Marcus. Did he provide any evidence? Photos, videos, witnesses? Just his word. Nathan, I know. I know there's nothing I can legally do. But I have to try something. Paul sighed. You could call CPS. Make an anonymous report. They're obligated to investigate. But it might not go anywhere without hard evidence, and Vanessa will probably figure out it was you. I don't care if she knows. All right. But be prepared for backlash. And Nathan? This doesn't give you rights to Marcus. Even if Derek is removed from the home, you're still legally nobody to that kid. I made the call that afternoon. Talked to a social worker named Jennifer who took down all the details, asked follow-up questions, promised someone would look into it. We take these reports seriously, she said. But you should know that the father has legal custody. Unless we find evidence of imminent danger, we can't remove the child without a court order. Just please check on him, I said. Please make sure he's safe. She said she would. I never heard back about what happened. Never found out if they investigated, if they found anything, if Marcus was okay. The not knowing was torture. 2 weeks after I made that CPS report, Vanessa called me. First time we'd spoken since the divorce finalized. What did you do? Her voice was ice. I don't know what you're talking about. CPS showed up at our apartment. Started asking questions about Derek, about Marcus, about bruises they claimed to have seen. This was you, wasn't it? If there are bruises, Vanessa, that's a problem. There are no bruises. Marcus fell off his bike. Kids get hurt. But now we have social workers crawling all over our lives, and Derek is furious. Maybe Derek should be furious at himself. You have no right to interfere with our family. I wouldn't have to interfere if you were keeping Marcus safe. He's perfectly safe. Is he? Because I got a letter that says otherwise. Silence on the other end. Then, he wrote to you? Yeah. What did he say? That Derek's violent. That you're scared. That Marcus is terrified. Should I keep going? He's exaggerating. Being dramatic. You know how kids are. No, Vanessa. I know how scared kids are when they're living with someone dangerous. And I know you're making excuses for him the same way you made excuses for everything else. I'm not having this conversation. Stay away from us, Nathan. I mean it. If you contact Marcus again, I'll file a restraining order. She hung up. I sat there holding my phone, feeling helpless. Angry. Trapped in this nightmare where I could see the disaster happening but couldn't do anything to stop it. Month 9, Diane and I went hiking up in the Cascades. Gorgeous day, clear skies, trail wasn't too crowded. We stopped at a viewpoint to eat lunch, sitting on a flat rock overlooking the valley below. You're quieter than usual, she said. Just thinking. About Marcus? I nodded. Have you heard anything since the CPS thing? Nothing. Vanessa threatened me with a restraining order, so I've stayed away. But I think about him constantly. Wonder if he's okay. If Derek's gotten worse. If Vanessa finally realized what she's done. Diane was quiet for a moment, chewing a granola bar. Can I tell you something you might not want to hear? Go ahead. You can't save him. You have no legal avenue, no relationship with Vanessa that would allow access, and Marcus himself would have to be the one to reach out for help. You've done what you can. At some point, you have to accept that and move forward. That feels like giving up. It's not giving up. It's accepting reality. You're not his father anymore, Nathan. You're not responsible for him. And torturing yourself over a situation you can't control isn't helping him or you. I knew she was right. Hated that she was right. I just don't know how to let go, I admitted. Maybe you don't let go all the way. Maybe you just learn to live with it. The not knowing. The powerlessness. The grief. Maybe that's all you can do. We finished our hike in comfortable silence. Later that night, back at my apartment, I pulled out a box I'd been avoiding. Photos of Marcus from over the years. Birthday parties, holidays, random Tuesday afternoons. Evidence of a life I'd lived that no longer existed. I went through them slowly. Let myself feel it. The loss. The love. The anger. All of it. Then I put them away. Not thrown out, I couldn't do that, but away. In the closet. Out of sight. Small steps. Month 11, I got promoted at work. Senior IT systems analyst. Better pay, better hours, my own office. My boss took me out for drinks to celebrate. You've really turned things around these past few months, he said. When you first started taking all those extra shifts, I was worried you were burning out. But you seem more focused now. More present. Thanks. I had some personal stuff I needed to work through. Well, whatever you did, keep doing it. You're one of our best people. I thanked him. Meant it. It felt good to be recognized for something I'd actually built, something that couldn't be taken away by someone else's decision. That night, I treated Diane to dinner at a nice restaurant. We talked about maybe taking a trip together. Maybe Portland or Vancouver. Something easy, no pressure. I'd like that, she said. Yeah? Yeah. I think it's time we figured out what this is. If it's going somewhere. Is that what you want? For it to go somewhere? She smiled. I think so. If you do. I thought about it. About whether I was ready. Whether I could trust someone again. Whether the scar tissue was healed enough to risk it. I think I do, I said. And I meant it. Mostly. 1 year after Father's Day, I woke up and realized I'd made it through. 365 days of rebuilding myself from nothing. Of learning who I was without being dad, without being Vanessa's husband, without being the provider and protector of a family that never actually wanted me. I'd expected to feel triumphant. Or at least relieved. Instead, I just felt tired. Diane came over that night. We ordered takeout, watched a movie, fell asleep on the couch together. Normal. Easy. Safe. At some point in the middle of the night, my phone buzzed. Email notification. I almost ignored it, but something made me check. Unknown sender. No subject line. I opened it. Nathan, I know you don't want to hear from me. I know you probably hate me and Mom both. I don't blame you. But I need you to know that Derek's gone. Mom finally kicked him out after he put a hole in the wall 3 inches from my head. CPS came back after that. Talked to both of us separately. I told them everything. They're monitoring us now. Making sure Derek stays away. Mom's in therapy. So am I. I know it's too late for us to be a family again. I know you've moved on and built a new life. I just wanted to say thank you for calling them. The social worker told me it was an anonymous tip, but I know it was you. You were still trying to protect me even after everything I did. I'm going to be okay. That's what I wanted you to know. You don't have to worry about me anymore. You don't have to feel responsible. I'm figuring it out. I hope you're happy, Nathan. I hope you found people who treat you the way you deserve. I hope you have a good life. I'm sorry for everything. Marcus. I read it 3 times. Then I set the phone down and just sat there in the dark, Diane asleep next to me, feeling all the complicated emotions I'd been holding at bay for 12 months. Relief that Marcus was safe. Anger that it had taken this long. Sadness that we'd never be what we were. Acceptance that this was probably the closest thing to closure I'd ever get. I didn't respond to the email. Didn't know what I'd say if I did. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is let them go. But I saved it. Printed it out. Put it in the box with the photos. Evidence that I'd mattered. That I'd tried. That 12 years hadn't been wasted, even if they'd ended badly. There's a lesson in all this, I think. About trust. About assumptions. About making sure the people you love are actually capable of loving you back. I gave 12 years to a family that wasn't mine. Not legally. Not really. I was a placeholder. A convenient paycheck with a willingness to parent someone else's child. And when the biological father came back into the picture, a convicted felon with 15 years of absence, I became expendable. So here's my advice, for what it's worth: if you're raising a child that isn't biologically yours, adopt them. Make it legal. Make it binding. Because good intentions and emotional bonds mean nothing when the biological parent decides they want back in. Protect yourself. Protect that relationship. Because the courts won't. The mother won't. Nobody will accept you. I learned that the hard way. But I also learned something else. Something Dr. Chen tried to tell me months ago that I'm only now starting to believe. You can love someone with everything you have and still walk away when the situation becomes untenable. You can grieve what you lost while also building something new. You can be devastated and healing at the same time. The human heart is more resilient than we give it credit for. Marcus is safe now. That's what matters. He's got a chance to process what happened, to heal from Derek's abuse, to maybe build something healthier with Vanessa if she does the work. And I'm safe too. Free from a marriage that was built on convenience rather than partnership. Free from the constant fear of being replaced. Free to build a life with someone who actually sees me. I stepped aside, just like Vanessa asked. Completely. But I didn't disappear. I rebuilt. Slowly, painfully, imperfectly. I'm still rebuilding. Some days are easier than others. Some days I see a kid on a bike and my chest tightens and I have to keep walking. Some days I don't think about Marcus at all. Progress isn't linear. Healing isn't neat. But I'm here. I'm standing. I'm moving forward. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that has to be enough. Story 3. My father had emergency surgery. My fiancée sat in the waiting room and whispered, "Why is your family so loud and dramatic? This is a hospital, not a circus." When I asked her to stop, she muttered, "I wish he died." That night, while she slept, I packed my bags, took the ring off her finger, and left a note: "My dramatic circus family will always come first." The next morning, my neighbor said he could hear her screaming and crying from next door. I need to tell you what happened, because if I don't write it down, I think I'll lose my mind trying to understand how I got here. How I almost married someone so cold she could wish death on my father in a hospital waiting room and think that was somehow acceptable. How I believed, for 3 years, that love meant compromise, even when the compromise was my own family's dignity. My hands are still shaking. It's been 4 days. Let me back up. My father collapsed at work on a Tuesday afternoon. Just dropped mid-sentence during a conference call, his assistant said. One moment he was discussing quarterly projections, the next he was on the floor, eyes rolled back, foam at the corners of his mouth. Massive cardiac event. The kind where every second counts, where the difference between life and death is measured in heartbeats. I got the call from my mom at 2:47 p.m. I know the exact time because I've replayed that moment 1,000 times since. Her voice was so small, so broken. My mother, who raised 4 kids mostly on her own while dad worked 60-hour weeks, who never cried at funerals or scary movies, was sobbing so hard I could barely understand her words. Your father, she choked out. Michael, your father, they're taking him into emergency surgery. His heart. They said, she couldn't finish. I was at my desk, surrounded by coworkers, and the world just stopped. Everything went quiet except for this ringing in my ears. My dad. My loud, embarrassing, tell the same jokes every Christmas, bear hug giving dad who still called me champ at 32 years old. I grabbed my jacket. Didn't shut down my computer, didn't tell my boss, just grabbed my stuff and ran. Sarah, my fiancée, though I guess I should stop calling her that now, was working from home that day. I called her from the car, hands barely steady enough to dial. Dad's in surgery. Heart attack. I'm heading to Memorial Hospital. Can you meet me there? There was a pause. Just a second too long. Oh no, that's terrible. I have this conference call at 3:30. Sarah. My dad might die. Another pause. Right. Of course. I'll be there as soon as I can. She said it like I'd asked her to pick up groceries. I drove 80 on the highway. Didn't care about tickets, didn't care about anything except getting to that hospital. My brother Alex called while I was driving. He was crying too, stuck in traffic, swearing at every red light. My sister Mia was already there, had been at lunch nearby when Mom called her. My youngest sister Rachel was driving in from 2 hours away. We're not a quiet family. We never have been. 4 kids, all born within 6 years of each other, raised in a small house where you had to be loud to be heard. Where dinners were chaos and holidays were beautiful disasters of overlapping conversations and people talking over each other to tell stories. Where I love you was shouted from car windows and hugs were bone-crushing, and if you were upset, everyone knew it because we didn't believe in suffering in silence. Sarah had always found this distasteful. She came from one of those families where emotions were private, where voices stayed level, where making a scene was the worst possible thing you could do. Her parents were polite. Controlled. They had dinner parties, not cookouts. They discussed things, they didn't argue. I thought it was just a difference in upbringing. I thought we could blend our worlds. I was wrong. I got to the hospital at 3:20. The surgery had already started. Mom was in the waiting room on the cardiac floor, surrounded by my siblings. Mia was holding her, both of them crying. Alex was pacing, running his hands through his hair over and over, muttering prayers or curses, I couldn't tell which. Rachel hadn't arrived yet but was texting updates every 5 minutes, 20 minutes away, 15 minutes, parking now. I sat down next to Mom and she collapsed into me, her whole body shaking with sobs. She felt so small. My mother had always been this force of nature, and suddenly she was fragile, breakable. I held her tight and tried not to fall apart myself. They said 3 to 4 hours, Mia whispered. Her eyes were red and swollen. They have to bypass 2 arteries. Maybe 3. Alex stopped pacing long enough to squeeze my shoulder. He's strong, he said, but his voice cracked on the word strong. He's going to be okay. We didn't know that. We couldn't know that. All we could do was wait and hold each other and try not to imagine the worst. Sarah arrived at 4:15. An hour after I'd asked her to come. She walked into the waiting room in her work clothes, pressed slacks, silk blouse, heels clicking on the linoleum. She looked annoyed, like she'd been interrupted during something important. She glanced around at my family, at my mom's tear-stained face, at Alex's disheveled appearance, at me with my eyes probably red from crying, and she didn't move to hug anyone. She just stood there. Hey, she said quietly, walking over to me. Any updates? Still in surgery, I managed. Probably 2 more hours. She nodded and sat down next to me, but not close. There was this gap between us, physical and emotional. She pulled out her phone and started scrolling. Rachel burst through the doors 10 minutes later, practically running. She saw Mom and immediately dropped to her knees in front of her, grabbing her hands. Mom, I'm here. It's okay. He's going to be okay. Rachel's voice was loud. Not obnoxiously loud, but loud enough that a few people in the waiting room looked over. She was crying, and when she hugged Mom, they both started sobbing together. I felt Sarah stiffen beside me. My family is expressive. We cry, we laugh too loud, we gesture wildly when we tell stories. In moments of crisis, we don't hide what we're feeling. We never learned how. For the next hour, we were a mess. When the nurse came out with an update, surgery is going well, but he's not out of the woods yet. Mom let out this relieved sob that echoed down the hallway. Alex punched the air and said, "Thank God," loud enough that several people turned to look. Mia hugged the nurse, actually hugged her, thanking her over and over. We were grateful. We were terrified. We were loud. I saw other families in that waiting room, quiet and composed, and I didn't judge them. Everyone handles fear differently. But Sarah did judge us. She leaned over to me, her voice low but sharp. "Michael, can you tell them to keep it down? This is a hospital." I blinked at her. "What?" "Your family. You're being really loud. People are staring. I looked around. Yeah, a few people had glanced over, but no one looked bothered. Most looked sympathetic. One woman even smiled sadly at my mom. Sarah, my dad's in surgery. We're emotional. She sighed, this long-suffering sigh like I was being deliberately difficult. I get that. But there's a way to be emotional without making a scene. Some people are trying to rest. You're in a public space. I felt something cold settle in my chest. We're not making a scene. We're just reacting. You're being dramatic, she whispered, but her tone was cutting. Why is your family always so dramatic? This is a hospital, not a circus. Not a circus. My father was on an operating table with his chest cut open, surgeons literally holding his heart in their hands, and she was comparing my family's grief to a circus. I stared at her. Really looked at her. At the pinched expression on her face, the judgment in her eyes. And I realized she wasn't uncomfortable because we were loud. She was uncomfortable because we were feeling things, openly and honestly, and she found that embarrassing. Please don't say things like that right now, I said quietly. I can't deal with this. She rolled her eyes. Actually rolled her eyes. Fine. Whatever. We sat in silence after that. Or rather, I sat in silence while my family continued to be themselves, crying, praying, comforting each other, telling old stories about Dad to keep spirits up. Mia started talking about the time Dad taught her to ride a bike and ended up running face first into a tree because he was watching her instead of where he was going. We all laughed, even Mom, even through tears. Sarah sat rigid beside me, staring at her phone like she wanted to be anywhere else. 2 hours later, the surgeon came out. We all jumped up, crowding around him. He was smiling, actually smiling, and the relief that flooded through me almost knocked me over. The surgery went very well, he said. We bypassed 3 arteries. His heart is strong. He's stable and he's going to make a full recovery, but he'll need to make some lifestyle changes and follow up with cardiac rehab. Mom collapsed into sobs again, but this time they were joyful. We were all crying, hugging each other, laughing. Alex picked Rachel up and spun her around. Mia was thanking the surgeon so profusely he looked a little overwhelmed. I turned to hug Sarah, to share this massive relief with the woman I was supposed to marry. She was looking at us with this expression of pure disgust. And then she muttered, so quiet I almost didn't hear it, I wish he died. The world stopped. Everything went silent in my head, like someone had pressed mute on reality. I stared at her, waiting for her to take it back, to say she misspoke, to say literally anything else. She didn't. She just looked away, her jaw tight. What did you just say? My voice came out flat. Dead. Nothing. She wouldn't look at me. Sarah. What did you just say? She glanced at me, and for just a second, I saw something ugly flash across her face. I said what I said. I wish he died. My father. The man who walked me to school every day until I was old enough to complain about it. Who taught me how to change a tire and how to treat people with respect. Who cried at my college graduation and told me he was proud of me at least once a week. Who loved my mother with a devotion that bordered on worship and loved his kids like we were the center of his universe. She wished he had died. Because we were too loud in a waiting room. I stood up. Didn't say anything. Just stood up and walked away from her, back to my family. I hugged my mom, my siblings, and I didn't look back at Sarah once. We stayed at the hospital until they moved Dad to recovery and let us see him, 2 at a time. He was pale, tubes everywhere, machines beeping, but he was alive. He was alive, and when he saw Mom, he smiled this weak, drugged smile and whispered, "Hey beautiful." I held his hand and told him I loved him and he squeezed my fingers back. Sarah stayed in the waiting room the entire time. Didn't ask to see him. Didn't come find me. Just sat there on her phone. We drove home separately. I didn't offer to take her car, didn't suggest dinner, didn't say much of anything. She seemed to realize she'd crossed a line because she was quiet too, but she didn't apologize. She never apologized. We lived together. Had for about 8 months, in this apartment we'd picked out together, with furniture we'd argued about and pictures of us on vacation hanging on the walls. We were supposed to get married in 4 months. Invitations were ordered. Venue was booked. Dress was bought. I walked into that apartment and I looked around and I thought, I cannot marry this woman. It wasn't just what she'd said. It was how she'd said it. The ease of it, the casual cruelty. Like wishing death on someone was just another opinion, another preference. Like my family's love and fear and relief were inconveniences to her. How many other times had she felt contempt and just hidden it better? Sarah went straight to the bedroom. I heard the shower turn on. She always showered at night, had this whole routine with expensive products and specific water temperature. It usually took her 40 minutes. I had 40 minutes. I started in the closet. Grabbed my suitcase, the big one we'd used for our trip to Colorado, and started filling it with clothes. Jeans, shirts, underwear, socks. I moved methodically, quietly. Took my toiletries from the bathroom while she was in the shower. Grabbed my laptop, my chargers, important documents from the filing cabinet. I wasn't thinking about where I'd go. I was just thinking, I need to leave. Now. Before I lose my nerve. I packed everything I couldn't live without. Left everything else. The furniture could stay, the kitchen stuff, the decorations. I didn't care. Material things didn't matter right now. The hardest part was the ring. Sarah had left it on the nightstand when she got in the shower. She always did that, didn't like getting her jewelry wet. It was a beautiful ring. I'd spent 3 months' salary on it, had it custom designed, presented it to her on a beach at sunset while she cried happy tears and said yes. That felt like a different life now. A different Michael, one who didn't know what his future wife was capable of saying. I picked up the ring. Held it in my palm. 3 carats, platinum band, little diamonds along the sides. She loved it. Showed it off to everyone, posted pictures on social media, planned her entire wedding around the aesthetic of this ring. I slipped it into my pocket. Then I sat down at the kitchen table and wrote a note. My hands were steadier than I expected. Maybe I was in shock. Maybe I'd already grieved this relationship in the hospital waiting room and just didn't realize it yet. Sarah, I can't marry someone who would wish death on my father because my family expresses emotions in a hospital. I can't build a life with someone who sees love and fear as embarrassing. I can't spend my life walking on eggshells, making myself smaller and quieter and more appropriate to meet your standards of acceptable behavior. My dramatic circus family will always come first. They're loud because they love hard. They cry because they feel deeply. They hug and laugh and make scenes because they're not afraid to be human. You wanted me to choose between you and them. I'm choosing them. The ring is on the counter. Everything else is yours. Don't contact me. Michael. I left the note on the table where she'd see it first thing in the morning. Put the ring next to it. Took one last look around the apartment. Then I grabbed my suitcase and walked out. I drove to Alex's house. He and his wife had a spare room, and when I showed up at 11 p.m. with my suitcase and couldn't quite explain what happened without my voice breaking, they didn't ask questions. They just hugged me and made up the bed and told me I could stay as long as I needed. I texted my mom that I was okay, that I'd explain everything tomorrow, that I loved her. Then I collapsed onto the guest bed and stared at the ceiling for hours, listening to my own heartbeat, wondering how I'd gotten here. My phone started ringing at 6:47 a.m. Sarah. I didn't answer. 6 more calls in the next 10 minutes. Then texts started flooding in. Where are you? Michael, what is this note? This is insane. You're throwing away 3 years because of one comment? Call me. I didn't mean it. I was stressed and tired. You can't just leave. Everyone makes mistakes. I turned my phone on silent. Rolled over. Tried to sleep. At 8:30, Alex knocked on the door. Hey, your neighbor just texted me. Jeff? He said he can hear Sarah screaming and crying from next door and wanted to make sure everything was okay. Jeff lived in the unit beside ours with his boyfriend. Nice guy. We'd had dinner with him a few times. I grabbed my phone and saw a text from him. Dude, your girlfriend is losing IT. She's been screaming your name for like an hour. Is everything okay? Should I call someone? Part of me felt guilty. That ingrained instinct to protect her, to soothe her, to fix things. We'd been together for 3 years. I'd loved her, or I thought I had. But then I remembered her face in that waiting room. The disgust. The casual cruelty. I texted Jeff back, everything is fine. We broke up. Sorry for the noise. His response came immediately, oh man. Sorry to hear that. Let me know if you need anything. Sarah called 12 more times that day. Then her mother called. Then her best friend. I didn't answer any of them. Finally, late that afternoon, I sent one text, we're done. Don't contact me again. I'll arrange to get my remaining things later. She responded with a wall of text. Pages of it. How I was overreacting, how she'd been under stress, how I was abandoning her, how she'd already told her parents the wedding was still on, how I was ruining her life. Not once did she say she was sorry for what she'd said about my dad. I blocked her number. The next few days were a blur. I went back to the hospital to see Dad, who was recovering beautifully, already complaining about the food and flirting with the nurses. When I told him and Mom what happened, Mom cried and hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. I never liked her, Mom whispered. I tried, baby, I really tried. But she always made me feel like we weren't good enough for her. Why didn't you say something? I asked. Because you loved her. Or we thought you did. We wanted you to be happy. Dad, still groggy and hooked up to machines, reached for my hand. You're a good man, Michael. You deserve someone who loves all of you, including where you come from. I broke down crying in that hospital room, and my family held me, and nobody cared that we were too loud or too emotional or too much of anything. We were just together. Sarah tried to show up at Alex's house 3 days later. Alex's wife, Jennifer, answered the door and told her firmly that I didn't want to see her. When Sarah tried to push past her, Jennifer literally closed the door in her face. She seemed really upset, Jennifer told me later. Like, genuinely devastated. But also angry? It was weird. I felt a pang of something, not quite guilt, but sadness maybe. Sadness that 3 years had come to this. That someone I'd planned a future with had turned into someone I couldn't even look at. But I didn't regret leaving. Every day that passed, I felt lighter. Freer. Mia helped me find a new apartment, a small one-bedroom across town. Alex and Rachel helped me move what little stuff I had. Mom made me a welcome home dinner even though it wasn't really home, just a new place to start over. We didn't talk about Sarah much. My family respected that I was processing. But one night, about 2 weeks after I'd left, Rachel said something that stuck with me. You know what I kept thinking about? That time Sarah came to Christmas dinner and made that comment about how we were chaos in human form. She laughed like it was a joke, but she wasn't joking. She meant it. She thought we were too much. Alex nodded. And that time she suggested we have a quieter Thanksgiving. Like we could just not be ourselves for a day. She kept trying to change you, Mia added quietly. Little things. The way you dressed, the way you laughed, the way you talked about us. She wanted you to be someone else. I realized they were right. For 3 years, I'd been slowly sanding down my edges, making myself more palatable, more acceptable. Lowering my voice, tempering my enthusiasm, creating distance from the very people who'd shaped me into who I was. And for what? For someone who would wish death on my father? The wedding venue called 2 weeks before the scheduled date. I'd forgotten to cancel, had been putting it off, I think, some part of me not quite ready to admit how close I'd come to making the biggest mistake of my life. We're sorry to hear about the cancellation, the coordinator said kindly. Unfortunately, the deposit is non-refundable, but we can apply it to a future event if you'd like. That's fine, I said. Keep it. It was just money. My dad was alive. That's what mattered. Sarah tried one more time, about a month later. She showed up at my new apartment, I don't know how she found the address, and knocked for 10 minutes straight. I looked through the peephole and saw her there, makeup running, looking smaller somehow than I remembered. I almost opened the door. Almost. But then I remembered that moment in the hospital. The look on her face. The ease with which she'd wished death on someone I loved. Some things can't be taken back. Some words, once spoken, change everything. I didn't open the door. She left eventually. I never heard from her again. Dad made a full recovery. Walked a mile every day, changed his diet, went to cardiac rehab religiously. 6 months later, he looked healthier than he had in years. We had Thanksgiving at Mom and Dad's house, all of us crammed around the table like always, talking over each other and laughing too loud and making a beautiful, chaotic mess of love and noise and family. Mia asked me, while we were doing dishes, if I was okay. Really okay. Yeah, I said, and meant it. I really am. Do you miss her? I thought about it. Sometimes. But I think I miss the idea of her more than who she actually was. I miss having a plan, a future mapped out. But I don't miss her. Good, Mia said fiercely. Because she didn't deserve you. I dried a plate and thought about all the things I'd almost given up. The loud, messy, emotional family who'd shaped me. The ability to cry in public when my father was dying. The permission to be fully, completely human. For someone who saw all of that as a circus. I'm still single. Haven't dated since. Maybe I'm not ready yet, or maybe I'm just being more careful this time. Looking for someone who doesn't flinch when I cry, who doesn't judge when my family gets excited, who understands that love isn't always quiet and controlled. Someone who would never, in a million years, wish death on my father. But let me tell you about the weeks that followed, because they weren't easy. Breaking off an engagement isn't like breaking up with a girlfriend. There's fallout. Consequences. A whole ecosystem of people who suddenly have opinions about your life. Sarah's mother called my mother. That was fun. Mom told me about it over coffee at my new apartment, about a week after I'd moved in. She looked tired, older somehow. This whole situation had aged her, I think. Between Dad's surgery and my broken engagement, she'd been through the ringer. She called me a liar, Mom said quietly, stirring her coffee even though she hadn't added anything to it. Said I poisoned you against Sarah. That I was jealous because you were building a life separate from the family. My hands tightened around my mug. She said what? It's fine, baby. I told her the truth, that I didn't even know what happened until after you left. That you made your own choice. Mom looked up at me, her eyes sad. But she didn't want to hear it. She kept saying Sarah made one mistake, one comment, and you threw away 3 years. That you were cruel and impulsive and that Sarah was devastated. Did you tell her what Sarah said? About Dad? Mom nodded. I did. She went quiet for a minute, then said Sarah didn't mean it. That she was stressed and exhausted and people say things they don't mean when they're overwhelmed. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I told her that when my husband was in surgery, fighting for his life, I'd never wish death on anyone. Stressed or not. I felt this surge of love for my mother, this fierce protectiveness mixed with gratitude. She'd always had my back, even when it cost her something. What did she say to that? She hung up on me. Mom smiled, but it was sad. I think Sarah told her a different story. A version where she was the victim and you were the villain. That tracked. Sarah had always been good at spinning narratives, at making herself the sympathetic character in every story. I'd seen her do it with friends, with coworkers, even with my own family. She had this talent for positioning herself as the reasonable one, the mature one, while everyone else was overreacting or being difficult. I wonder how many times she'd told stories about my dramatic family to her friends, painting herself as the patient girlfriend dealing with chaos. How many times she'd rolled her eyes and gotten sympathy for putting up with us. The thought made me feel sick. Work was awkward too. We'd worked in the same building, different departments, but close enough that everyone knew we were engaged. The gossip spread fast. By the end of that first week back, I couldn't walk to the break room without people giving me looks, some sympathetic, some curious, some judgmental. My boss, Karen, called me into her office on Thursday. I heard about your engagement, she said carefully. I'm sorry, Michael. That must be difficult. Thank you. I kept my voice neutral, professional. Sarah's been. Well, she's been telling people her side of things. Karen looked uncomfortable. I don't want to get involved in personal matters, but some of what she's saying is affecting your reputation here. I thought you should know. My stomach dropped. What is she saying? Karen hesitated. That you abandoned her without warning. That your family pressured you to call off the wedding because they never accepted her. That you're having some kind of breakdown after your father's surgery and made an impulsive decision you'll regret. I laughed. Actually laughed, this bitter sound that surprised both of us. She wished my father would die. In a hospital. While he was in surgery. Karen's eyes widened. She what? My family was emotional because we were terrified. She called us dramatic, compared us to a circus, and then muttered that she wished he'd died. Because we were being too loud. The words felt like stones in my mouth. That's why I left. Oh my gosh. Karen leaned back in her chair. Michael, I had no idea. She didn't mention that part? No. She made it sound like you just walked away because of family pressure. She rubbed her temples. This is beyond what I should be dealing with, but I'm glad you told me. For what it's worth, I don't think you made the wrong choice. I appreciated that. But the damage was done. Sarah's version of events was already out there, circulating, and I couldn't exactly go around telling everyone what she'd said. It felt too personal, too painful. So I let people think what they wanted and focused on my work. But Sarah wasn't done. 2 weeks after I left, she showed up at Mom and Dad's house. Dad called me immediately. You need to come over here. Now. What happened? Sarah's at our door. She's asking to talk to us, saying she needs to explain her side. Your mother doesn't want to let her in, but she won't leave. I was there in 15 minutes. Sarah's car was parked in the driveway, and she was standing on the porch, talking through the screen door. Mom stood inside, arms crossed, looking like she wanted to slam the real door in Sarah's face. When Sarah saw me pull up, her expression changed. She'd been crying, I could see the tear tracks on her face, but when she looked at me, there was something calculating in her eyes. Like she'd been waiting for this moment, rehearsing it. Michael, she said, her voice breaking on my name. Please. I just need 5 minutes. No. I stayed by my car, keys still in my hand. Go home, Sarah. I made a mistake. One mistake. Don't I deserve a chance to explain? You wished my father would die. Mom flinched behind the screen door. Even hearing it again, weeks later, still hurt her. Sarah's face crumpled. I didn't mean it. I was scared and tired and I said something horrible without thinking. I've been sick over it ever since. I can't eat, I can't sleep. That's not my problem anymore. We were going to get married. Her voice rose, desperate. We had a life planned. You can't just throw that away because of one bad moment. I walked closer to the porch, close enough that I could see her clearly. She looked terrible, hair unwashed, dark circles under her eyes, clothes rumpled. Part of me felt bad for her. But only part. It wasn't one bad moment, I said quietly. It was 3 years of moments. Of you making little comments about my family, my volume, my emotions. Of you trying to shape me into someone quieter, more controlled, more like you. I just didn't see it until that night. Until you said the one thing that made it impossible to ignore. That's not fair. She was crying openly now. I loved you. I still love you. You loved the version of me you were trying to create. You never loved who I actually am. Dad appeared behind Mom, putting his hand on her shoulder. He looked older than he had before the surgery, but healthy. Alive. The sight of him standing there, breathing, existing, made my choice feel even more right. Sarah saw him too. Her eyes flickered to him, then away. She couldn't look at him. Couldn't face the man whose death she'd casually wished for. I think you should leave, Dad said. His voice was gentle but firm. You're not welcome here. Sarah turned back to me, one last desperate attempt. If you change your mind, I won't. She stared at me for a long moment, and I watched something shift in her expression. The sadness hardened into anger. You're going to regret this. When you're alone and miserable, when you realize what you gave up, don't come crawling back. I won't, I repeated. She left. Peeled out of the driveway fast enough to leave tire marks. Mom opened the screen door and I stepped inside. She hugged me tight, and Dad joined us, and we stood there in a 3-person huddle, not saying anything. I'm proud of you, Dad said finally. That took guts. I love you, Dad. Love you too, champ. The weeks turned into months. I settled into my new apartment, into my new life. Started therapy, not because I thought I was broken, but because I wanted to understand how I'd missed the signs for so long. How I'd let someone slowly erode my sense of self without noticing. Dr. Patterson was in her 50s, warm and direct. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. Tell me about your family, she said in our first session. I did. Told her about growing up in a house full of noise and love, about parents who showed affection openly, about siblings who fought and laughed in equal measure. And Sarah saw this as a negative? She saw it as excessive. Dramatic. She came from a family where emotions were private. Controlled. How did that make you feel? Like I was too much, I admitted. Like I needed to be less. Quieter. More acceptable. Dr. Patterson nodded. Did she ever explicitly ask you to change? I thought about it. Not directly. It was subtle. She'd make jokes about my family being a lot. She'd get tense when I got excited about things. She once told me I laughed too loud in restaurants. And you adjusted. Yeah. Without really realizing it. We spent 6 sessions unpacking that. The way love shouldn't require you to diminish yourself. The difference between compromise and erasure. The red flags I'd ignored because I was so focused on making the relationship work. Do you think you would have seen it eventually? Dr. Patterson asked. If your father's surgery hadn't happened? I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe. Or maybe I would have married her and spent the next 30 years feeling like I was performing. Like I was never quite enough. But you didn't. You saw it and you left. I did. That takes remarkable self-awareness and courage. Give yourself credit for that. I tried. Some days were easier than others. Alex and Jennifer invited me to a dinner party about 3 months after everything happened. Nothing fancy, just some friends and neighbors, casual conversation over pasta and wine. I almost didn't go. The thought of being around couples, of being the only single person in the room, felt exhausting. But Alex insisted. You can't hide forever, he said. Come eat food and be social. It'll be good for you. He was right. It was good for me. There were 8 of us around the table, Alex and Jennifer, their neighbors Tom and Lisa, Jennifer's coworker Marcus and his boyfriend Ryan, and a woman named Claire who was Lisa's friend from college. Claire was funny. Like, genuinely funny, not trying too hard funny. She told this story about accidentally dyeing her cat orange while trying to give him a bath, and I laughed so hard I almost choked on my wine. You okay over there? She asked, grinning at me. I'm good. Just, that story. The mental image of an orange cat. He looked like a Cheeto. My neighbors thought I was insane. I noticed she laughed loud too. Not obnoxious, just uninhibited. Free. She didn't cover her mouth or apologize for her volume. She just laughed. After dinner, we all moved to the living room. Conversations split off into smaller groups, and I found myself on the couch next to Claire, both of us slightly tipsy and comfortable in that warm, fuzzy way wine makes you feel. So what's your story? She asked. Alex mentioned you just moved to the area? Sort of. I moved apartments. Had a situation with my ex. Ah. She nodded knowingly. One of those. Want to talk about it or change the subject? I appreciated that she gave me the option. Change the subject. What do you do? We talked for an hour. She was a graphic designer, worked freelance from home, had a cat named Pumpkin who she'd turned orange. She was close with her family, 3 younger brothers who she described as chaos incarnate but in the best way. When she talked about her brothers, her whole face lit up. They're so loud, she said, laughing. Like, we can't go anywhere without people staring. But they're the best. Family game nights are basically controlled warfare. That sounds amazing, I said, and meant it. She tilted her head, studying me. You have siblings? 3. Same energy. We're loud and messy and we drive each other crazy, but I wouldn't trade them for anything. Aw. She smiled. That's really sweet. I left that night with Claire's number saved in my phone and a feeling in my chest I hadn't felt in a long time. Not love, I wasn't ready for that. But possibility. The sense that maybe, eventually, I could open myself up to someone new. Someone who wouldn't flinch at my family's volume or wish death on people I loved. I didn't text Claire right away. I needed more time. But knowing her number was there, that option existing, felt like hope. Christmas came. Our first without the shadow of Sarah's disapproval hanging over it. We gathered at Mom and Dad's like always, the house packed with too many people and not enough seating. Rachel brought her new boyfriend, a quiet guy named Simon who looked overwhelmed but happy. Mia's husband cooked his famous lasagna. Alex's kids ran around screaming about Santa. It was loud. Chaotic. Beautiful. Dad carved the turkey and told the same joke he told every year about the time he accidentally bought a frozen turkey the morning of Thanksgiving and tried to thaw it with a hairdryer. We all groaned, but we were smiling. Mom pulled me aside in the kitchen while everyone else was arguing about whether Die Hard was a Christmas movie. You seem lighter, she said, handing me a dish to dry. Happier. I am, I realized. I really am. Good. You deserve that, baby. She paused, scrubbing at a stubborn spot on a pan. Can I tell you something? Always. That Christmas 3 years ago, when you brought Sarah home for the first time. I knew then. I knew she didn't fit. Mom looked at me, her eyes sad. She sat in the corner looking uncomfortable the whole night. When Rachel spilled eggnog on herself and we all laughed, Sarah looked horrified. Like we were laughing at Rachel, not with her. She didn't understand that we laugh at ourselves, that it's how we show love. Why didn't you say anything? Because you seemed happy. Or I thought you did. And I've always believed my kids need to make their own choices, their own mistakes. She set down the pan and took my hands. But I'm so glad you made the choice you did. Before it was too late. Me too, Mom. We finished the dishes together, and I felt this profound sense of gratitude for my family, for their noise and mess and unconditional love. For the fact that I'd chosen them, and I'd choose them again, every single time. New Year's came and went. I made one resolution, to stop making myself smaller for anyone. I texted Claire in mid-January. Just a simple message, hey, this is Michael from Alex's dinner party. Wanna grab coffee sometime? She responded within minutes, I was wondering if you'd ever text. Yes, definitely. When are you free? We met at a local coffee shop on a Saturday morning. She showed up in jeans and an oversized sweater, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, no makeup. She looked comfortable. Real. Sorry I look like I just rolled out of bed, she said, sliding into the seat across from me. I kind of did. You look great, I said, and meant it. We talked for 3 hours. About work, about life, about her orange cat and my chaotic family and the weirdness of dating in your 30s. She was easy to talk to, the kind of person who listened when you spoke and remembered details from earlier in the conversation. At one point, I mentioned my dad's surgery, keeping it brief. Just mentioned that he'd been sick but was recovering well. Claire's face softened. That must have been scary. How's he doing now? Really good. Back to his old self. Telling bad jokes and embarrassing us in public. She laughed. My dad's the same way. He does this thing where he tries to high-five waiters and they never know what to do. My dad hugs them. Oh no. But she was grinning. That's so much worse. We walked out of the coffee shop together, and she turned to me. I had fun. We should do this again. Yeah, I said. We really should. I didn't tell her about Sarah. Not yet. That conversation would come eventually, but not now. For now, I just wanted to enjoy this, the newness, the possibility, the feeling of connection without the weight of expectation or judgment. We texted every day after that. Started hanging out once or twice a week. It was casual, comfortable. She never asked why I wasn't rushing into anything, never pushed for labels or definitions. We just existed in this space of getting to know each other, slowly and carefully. In March, she invited me to her family's house for her younger brother's birthday party. Fair warning, she said. It's going to be loud. My brothers are feral. My parents are enablers. It's controlled chaos at best. Sounds perfect, I said. And it was. Her family reminded me of mine, loud conversations, people talking over each other, inside jokes that required 10 minutes of backstory to explain. Her dad did indeed try to high-five me when I arrived. Her mom hugged me like she'd known me for years. Claire's brothers roasted her mercilessly, and she gave it right back, and everyone laughed until they cried. At one point, her youngest brother accidentally knocked over a lamp while demonstrating a skateboard trick in the living room, and instead of anyone getting mad, they just laughed and worked together to clean it up. I felt at home there. In a way I'd never felt at Sarah's family's house, where everything was controlled and measured and polite. "Your family's amazing," I told Claire later, as we sat on her parents' back porch. "They're a lot," she said, but she was smiling. "I know not everyone can handle it. I can handle it." I looked at her. "I grew up with it. My family's the same way." "Yeah?" She looked pleased. "That's good. I dated a guy once who called my family exhausting. Didn't last long after that." "Anyone who can't appreciate your family doesn't deserve you," I said. She leaned her head on my shoulder, and we sat there in comfortable silence, listening to the sound of her brothers arguing about something inside. I told her about Sarah in April, 4 months after we'd started whatever this was. We were at my apartment, cooking dinner together, or attempting to. Claire was chopping vegetables while I worked on the pasta, and we were talking about exes, the kind of conversation that feels inevitable when you're getting serious about someone. "My last relationship ended pretty badly," I said, keeping my eyes on the boiling water. "We were engaged, actually." Claire's knife stilled. "Oh. What happened?" I told her. Not all of it, but the important parts. About Dad's surgery, about Sarah's comments, about the moment I realized I couldn't marry someone who saw my family as a circus. When I finished, Claire set down the knife and turned to face me fully. She said she wished your dad would die? "Yeah." "While he was in surgery?" "Yeah." Claire shook her head, her expression somewhere between disbelief and anger. I don't even have words for how messed up that is. It was a pretty clear sign I was making the wrong choice. "I'd say so." She reached out and took my hand. "I'm sorry you went through that. But I'm glad you left. Anyone who would say something like that." She trailed off, then squeezed my hand. "You deserve better." "I think I'm finding better," I said quietly. She smiled at that, this soft, genuine smile that made my chest feel warm. "Good. Because you're pretty great, Michael. And your family sounds amazing. I can't wait to meet them. They'll love you," I said, and I knew it was true. We were officially together after that. Girlfriend and boyfriend, though those words felt almost too simple for what we had. It was easy with Claire in a way it had never been easy with Sarah. There was no performance, no carefully managed version of myself. I could be loud or quiet, emotional or reserved, and she met me where I was every single time. In May, I brought her home to meet my family. I was nervous, more nervous than I'd been about anything in months. My family meant everything to me, and I needed them to like her. Needed her to like them. We pulled up to my parents' house on a Sunday afternoon. Cars were already filling the driveway, everyone was there for Mom's birthday. "Ready?" I asked Claire. She grinned. "Absolutely." The door flew open before we even reached it. Rachel stood there, eyes wide. "Is this her?" "This is her, right?" "Rachel, let them inside," Mom called from somewhere deeper in the house. We stepped into chaos. Music playing, something delicious cooking, Dad telling a story in the living room while Alex and Simon laughed. Mia's kids were building a fort out of couch cushions. It smelled like garlic and tomato sauce and home. Mom appeared, wiping her hands on her apron. She saw Claire and her whole face lit up. "You must be Claire. I've heard so much about you." "All good things, I hope," Claire said, and Mom pulled her into a hug. Just like that, Claire was part of it. Part of us. She fit seamlessly into the chaos. Helped in the kitchen, laughed at Dad's terrible jokes, played with the kids, held her own in the rapid-fire conversations happening around the dinner table. When Rachel told an embarrassing story about me from high school, Claire laughed so hard she snorted, and everyone loved her for it. After dinner, Mom pulled me aside in the kitchen. "I like her," she said simply. "She's good for you." "Yeah," I agreed. "She really is." "And Michael? She looks at you the way your father looks at me. Like you're the best thing in her world." Mom kissed my cheek. "Don't let this one get away." I didn't plan to. 6 months later, Claire moved in with me. A year after that, I proposed, not on a beach at sunset, but in her parents' backyard during her youngest brother's graduation party, surrounded by both our families, with everyone we loved as witnesses. She said yes before I even finished asking. We got married in a small ceremony at a local garden, nothing fancy or expensive. Our families were loud and emotional, and someone definitely cried during the vows. Actually, several people cried. Dad sobbed openly. Mom had to sit down because she was crying so hard. It was perfect. Claire's youngest brother gave a toast where he roasted both of us, and everyone laughed until their sides hurt. My brother Alex told the story about me showing up at his house at midnight with a suitcase, and how he knew even then I'd end up exactly where I was supposed to be. To finding the right person, Alex said, raising his glass. And to having the courage to walk away from the wrong one. We drank to that. Later, during the reception, while everyone was dancing and the music was loud and our families were mixing together in this beautiful chaos, Claire leaned close to me. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For being exactly who you are. For having a family that taught you how to love loudly." She kissed me. I wouldn't change a single thing about any of it. I held her close and looked around at everyone we loved, laughing, dancing, celebrating us. My dramatic circus of a family and hers, all mixed together, all perfectly, beautifully too much. And I thought about Sarah. About the life I almost had. About how close I came to choosing silence over noise, restraint over joy, acceptability over authenticity. But I didn't. I chose this. Chose them. Chose love that doesn't require you to be smaller or quieter or less. Sometimes the best decision you can make is the one that looks like disaster in the moment. Sometimes walking away from 3 years of investment is the smartest thing you'll ever do. Sometimes you have to lose the wrong person to find the right one. My father's alive and healthy and giving terrible toasts at my wedding. My family's intact, loud as ever, loving as always. And I'm married to someone who celebrates every messy, emotional, dramatic part of who I am. The ring I bought for Sarah is still in a drawer somewhere. I should really pawn it. But honestly, I'm too busy being happy to care. There's one more thing I should tell you, though. One more piece to this story that I think about sometimes late at night. About a year after Claire and I got married, I ran into someone who knew Sarah. Jessica, a mutual friend from way back, someone I hadn't seen since the breakup. We crossed paths at a coffee shop downtown, and after the initial awkward greeting, she asked if we could talk. We sat down at a corner table, and she looked nervous. "I need to tell you something," Jessica said, stirring her latte without drinking it. "About Sarah." My stomach tightened. "Okay." "After you two broke up, she told everyone you had a breakdown. That your dad's surgery triggered something in you and you became irrational." Jessica met my eyes. "She said you needed professional help and that she tried to support you, but you pushed her away." I wasn't surprised. Not really. But hearing it still stung. "That's not what happened," I said quietly. "I know." Jessica leaned forward. "A few months ago, I was at a party and Sarah was there with her new boyfriend. They'd been dating for like 6 months at that point. And Michael. I watched her do the same thing to him." "What do you mean?" "He was laughing at something, really laughing, you know that kind where you can't catch your breath?" And she looked at him with this expression of pure disgust. Then she leaned over and said something to him, and I saw his whole face change. He got quiet. Apologized. Made himself smaller. Jessica shook her head. It was like watching someone dim their own light because they were told they were shining too bright. My chest felt tight. Did they last? "They broke up 2 months ago. I heard from another friend that she'd made some comment about his mother being overdramatic during a family emergency. He ended it right there." Jessica looked at me intently. "You weren't the problem, Michael. You were never the problem. She can't handle people who feel things fully. Who express joy or fear or love without apologizing for it." I sat with that for a moment. Part of me felt vindicated, proof that I'd made the right choice, that it wasn't just me being oversensitive or impulsive. But mostly I felt sad. Sad for Sarah, who would keep repeating this pattern, keep pushing away anyone who dared to be authentically human around her. Sad for all the men who'd come after me, who'd learned the same painful lesson. "Thank you for telling me," I said. Jessica smiled. "I heard you got married. To someone else." "I did. Claire. She's..." I couldn't help but smile. "She's everything." "Good. You deserve that." Jessica finished her coffee and stood up. "And for what it's worth? Everyone who actually knew you both knew the truth. Sarah could spin whatever story she wanted, but the people who mattered saw through it." After she left, I sat there for a while longer, thinking about patterns and choices and how we become who we are. I thought about how Sarah probably wasn't evil or malicious, she was just broken in a way that made her incompatible with people like me. People who loved loudly, who cried openly, who made scenes without meaning to because our emotions were too big to contain. She needed someone quiet and controlled, someone who matched her energy, who understood that love for her meant restraint and composure. And that was okay. That person existed somewhere. But it would never be me. I texted Claire on my way home, "Love you. Thank you for being you." She responded immediately, "Love you too. Want Thai food for dinner? I'm thinking of ordering enough for an army." I laughed out loud in my car. That was Claire, no restraint, no carefully portioned meals, just abundance and enthusiasm and joy. "Sounds perfect," I typed back. When I got home, Claire was on the couch with Pumpkin, the cat who was no longer orange, thankfully, curled up on her lap. She'd ordered enough Thai food to feed 8 people, spread across our coffee table. "I may have gone overboard," she admitted, grinning at me. "I love that about you," I said, and kissed her. We ate too much food and watched a movie and she laughed too loud at the funny parts and I didn't mind one bit. Later, while she was in the shower, I went to the drawer where I'd kept Sarah's ring all this time. I pulled it out, held it up to the light. It was still beautiful, objectively, it was a stunning ring. But it represented everything I'd almost settled for. A life of apologizing for existing, of managing myself to fit someone else's narrow definition of acceptable. The next day, I took it to a jeweler and had it appraised. Sold it on the spot. With the money, I bought Claire a ridiculous gift, a painting she'd been eyeing for months at a local gallery, this wild, colorful abstract piece that she loved because it felt like joy looked. It cost too much and served no practical purpose, and when I hung it in our living room, she cried happy tears and kissed me so many times I lost count. "This is too much," she said, even as she stared at it with pure delight. "It's exactly enough," I told her. "That's the thing about us, we're allowed to be too much. That's not a flaw. That's the whole point." She understood immediately. Wrapped her arms around me and held on tight. "I'm so glad your dad had that surgery," she whispered. It was a strange thing to say, but I knew what she meant. Not glad that he'd been sick, not glad that he'd almost died. But glad for the circumstances that revealed Sarah's true nature before it was too late. Glad for the crisis that forced me to see clearly, to choose definitively, to save myself from a lifetime of diminishment. "Me too," I said. "Me too. Dad's doing great, by the way. 4 years post-surgery and he's healthier than ever. He walks 5 miles a day, eats his vegetables, takes his medications religiously. He and Mom are talking about taking a trip to Italy next year, something they've always wanted to do but never made time for. Life's too short," Dad told me last Sunday at family dinner. I almost learned that the hard way. We were all there, me and Claire, Alex and Jennifer and their kids, Mia and her husband, Rachel and Simon who were engaged now. 11 people crammed around a table meant for 8, talking over each other, laughing too loud, passing dishes and spilling drinks and making the kind of beautiful mess that only happens when people love each other without reservation. Dad raised his glass. "To family," he said. The loud, dramatic, circus kind. We all laughed and clinked glasses, and I caught Claire's eye across the table. She was grinning at me, this woman who chose to marry into this chaos, who celebrated it instead of trying to control it. And I thought about alternate universes again. The ones where I married Sarah, where I spent decades apologizing for my family's volume, where my kids learned to be ashamed of their grandparents' enthusiasm and their parents' emotions. Where love was quiet and controlled and ultimately suffocating. Thank God I don't live in those universes. Thank God I live in this one, where my wife orders too much Thai food and my family makes scenes in hospitals and love is loud and messy and completely, wonderfully too much. Sometimes I still think about that night in the hospital waiting room. About the moment Sarah's mask slipped and I saw who she really was underneath all the politeness and composure. It was the worst night of my life and the best night of my life, all at once. The worst because my father almost died and the woman I loved revealed herself to be someone capable of cruelty. The best because it gave me clarity. Permission. The strength to choose myself, my family, my right to exist exactly as I am. I wouldn't change a single thing. Well, maybe one thing. I would have left sooner. Would have seen the signs earlier. Would have saved myself some time and heartache. But then again, maybe I needed those 3 years to understand what I didn't want. To recognize real love when it finally showed up wearing an oversized sweater and making me laugh until my sides hurt. The ring is gone now. Sold, spent, transformed into something beautiful hanging on our living room wall. And me? I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Loud. Emotional. Dramatic. Free. And so incredibly, perfectly happy. My neighbor Jeff, the one who texted me that morning, told me something interesting a few months after I moved out. We ran into each other at a coffee shop, and he bought me a drink, said he'd been wanting to tell me something. That morning, when Sarah was freaking out, I heard some of what she was saying through the walls. He looked uncomfortable. She wasn't just crying. She was angry. Like, really angry. She kept yelling about how you'd ruined everything, how she'd already sent out wedding invitations, how all her friends were going to judge her. That's it? I asked. Nothing about, I don't know, being sorry? Missing me? Jeff shook his head. Not once, man. It was all about how you'd embarrassed her. How she was going to look bad. She kept saying how could he do this to me? Over and over. Even then, even at the end, it was about appearances. About how things looked from the outside. Never about what she'd done. Never about my father. Never about us. I thanked Jeff for telling me. It was the confirmation I didn't know I needed. The final piece clicking into place. I'd made the right choice. Sometimes late at night, when I can't sleep, I think about alternate timelines. Ones where I didn't hear her mutter those words. Where I married her, had kids with her, spent decades trying to manage the collision between her world and mine. Where I slowly lost pieces of myself, year by year, trying to be the person she wanted me to be. Where my kids learned to be ashamed of their loud, loving, dramatic grandparents. It makes me feel cold all over. My phone is on the nightstand, and I grab it, pull up the family group chat. It's 11 p.m. but everyone's still awake, sending memes and arguing about whether dad should be allowed to have bacon. Me, love you guys. The responses come immediately. Mom, love you too baby. Alex, love you bro. Mia, love you, red heart emoji. Rachel, love you even though you're annoying. Dad, love you champ. I smile at my phone, at this loud, chaotic, beautiful family who never learned how to love quietly. And I feel grateful, so overwhelmingly grateful, that I chose them. That when it mattered most, when I had to pick between the life I'd planned and the people who made me who I am, I picked right. My father's alive. My family's intact. And I'm free. Sometimes the trash takes itself out. Sometimes you have to help it along. Either way, I'm better off. I still have the ring, actually. It's in a drawer somewhere in my apartment. I keep meaning to pawn it, turn it into something useful, but I haven't yet. Maybe it's a reminder. A little talisman of the life I almost lived and the bullet I dodged. Or maybe I'm just lazy about errands. Either way, I sleep better now than I have in years. In the quiet of my small apartment, with no one judging the way I breathe or how loudly I laugh at TV shows or whether I cry during sad movies. No one wishing death on the people I love. Just me, and the freedom to be exactly who I am. It's enough. It's more than enough. It's everything. Story 4.
My graduation day, I was valedictorian. My mom texted, "We're busy." Sent pics. I gave my speech to other people's families. After the ceremony, I opened Facebook. My parents, my sister, 6 Flags. Posted 90 minutes ago. Timestamp, exactly when I walked across the stage. Caption, best day ever with our graduate. My sister's a sophomore. Not graduating. I said nothing. Screenshot everything. That night mom called, "Did you send pics?" Me, check Facebook. Hung up. Next day, family group chat. Dinner to celebrate. I sent the screenshot. Time-stamped. Typed 6 words. Left the chat. 1 week later, scholarship accepted. 1,800 miles away. I told no one. Moving day, gone. 3 months later, they showed up at my dorm. I slid one photo under the door, me on stage. Empty seats where they should have been. Said 7 words through the door. My mother fainted, my father started crying. I'm going to tell you something that sounds made up, but I promise you, every single word is true. My parents didn't come to my high school graduation. Not because they forgot. Not because of an emergency. They chose not to come. And I have receipts. Let me back up. I was valedictorian. 4 years of perfect grades, AP courses until my brain felt like scrambled eggs, volunteer work, clubs, the whole overachiever package. I'd worked myself half to death for this moment, and everyone knew it. My guidance counselor cried when she told me I'd earned the top spot. My teachers kept hugging me in the hallways. Even the principal, Mr. Henderson, who never remembered anyone's name, knew exactly who I was. The week before graduation, I reminded my parents about the ceremony. Told them 3 times. Sent them the date, the time, the location. Mom said of course we'll be there, sweetie, while scrolling through her phone. Dad grunted from behind his laptop. My sister Becca rolled her eyes and said congrats, nerd, before going back to her room. Normal family stuff, right? That's what I thought. Graduation day arrived hot and humid, the kind of June morning where your clothes stick to your skin the second you step outside. I woke up at 6, my stomach a mess of nerves and excitement. I'd practiced my valedictorian speech maybe 200 times. Had it memorized forwards and backwards. I wanted it to be perfect. I got dressed in my white dress, the one Mom helped me pick out, actually, which makes what happened next even more twisted, and carefully arranged my graduation gown. The gold honor cords felt heavy around my neck. National Honor Society. Academic excellence. Community service. I'd earned every single one of them. My phone buzzed while I was putting on my earrings. A text from Mom, running a little behind. Save us seats. I smiled. Texted back, okay. Love you. Second text, 2 minutes later, actually we might be really behind. Don't worry if we're a few minutes late. Something cold flickered in my chest, but I pushed it down. They'd be there. Of course they'd be there. I drove myself to the school, my hands shaking slightly on the steering wheel. The parking lot was already packed with families, everyone laughing and taking photos, little kids running around in their church clothes. I saw my friend Maya with her entire extended family, at least 15 people, all wearing matching t-shirts with her face printed on them. Her grandmother was crying already and the ceremony hadn't even started. I checked my phone. Nothing. Inside, the auditorium buzzed with chaos. Graduates lined up in alphabetical order, adjusting caps, hugging each other, teachers frantically organizing us. Principal Henderson gave us a pep talk I didn't hear because I was scanning the growing crowd in the seats, looking for my family. Mrs. Chen, my AP English teacher, squeezed my shoulder. "Ready for your big moment?" "Yeah," I said, trying to sound confident. "Just. Have you seen my parents? They said they might be running late." She glanced at the crowd. "I'm sure they'll be here. They wouldn't miss this." 10 minutes before the ceremony started, I texted Mom again, "Where are you guys?" The response came immediately, "So sorry, honey. Got held up. We're trying. Send us pictures." Send pictures. Something in my chest went tight and cold, but I told myself to stop being dramatic. They were coming? They were just late. It happened. The processional music started. We filed in, caps and gowns rustling, the audience clapping. I walked down the aisle with my head up, smiling, but my eyes kept darting to the doors at the back. Any second now they'd slip in, I thought. Any second. We took our seats. The principal welcomed everyone. Mrs. Rodriguez sang the national anthem beautifully. Student council president gave a short speech. My palms were sweating. Then Principal Henderson called my name. "And now, to deliver the valedictorian address, please welcome Alyssa Martinez." The applause was thunderous. I stood, my legs somehow remembering how to work, and walked to the podium. The lights were bright in my eyes. I looked out at the sea of families and saw Maya's grandmother still crying, saw Mr. Patterson from my physics class filming everything on his phone, saw empty seats in the middle section where my family was supposed to be. I'd reserved 4 seats. Moved special reserved signs on them myself yesterday during setup. 4 empty seats in a packed auditorium. I opened my mouth to speak, and for one horrible second, nothing came out. Then I remembered my speech. Remembered why I'd worked so hard. Remembered that this moment was mine, whether they were here or not. So I gave that speech. I talked about perseverance and community and the teachers who shaped us. I quoted authors and made a joke that actually landed. I saw Mrs. Chen crying in the faculty section. I saw strangers in the audience nodding along, smiling at me. Other people's families clapped for me. Other people's mothers wiped their eyes. Other people's fathers filmed me on their phones. My own family wasn't there. I finished to standing ovation, but it felt like it was happening to someone else. I walked back to my seat in a daze. The rest of the ceremony blurred past. Names called. Students crossing the stage. Caps thrown in the air. Everyone celebrating. I stood in the crowd afterward, hugging classmates, smiling for photos with teachers, accepting congratulations from people whose names I didn't know. Maya's mom hugged me and said I gave a beautiful speech. Mr. Patterson told me I should be proud. I checked my phone. 3 messages from Mom, "How's it going? Send pics when you can. Hope you're having fun. Hope you're having fun." My hands were steady when I opened Facebook. I don't know why I did it. Instinct, maybe. That cold feeling in my chest telling me to look. There they were. 6 flags. My parents, my sister Becca, and 2 of Becca's friends. Posted 90 minutes ago. The timestamp read 2:47 p.m. My valedictorian speech started at 2:45 p.m. I stood there in the emptying parking lot, staring at my phone screen, trying to make my brain understand what I was seeing. The photos showed them on roller coasters, eating funnel cake, posing with cartoon characters. Everyone smiling. Everyone having the time of their lives. The caption on Mom's post read, "Best day ever with our graduate." Our graduate. Becca was a sophomore. She wasn't graduating. Wouldn't for 2 more years. I scrolled through the photos. There were at least 20 of them. A whole day documented. Mom and Dad on the Superman ride. Becca and her friends with ice cream. Dad making a silly face at the camera. My graduation lasted 2 hours. They'd been at 6 Flags for at least 3 hours, based on the photo timestamps. This wasn't an emergency. This wasn't getting held up in traffic. They planned this. They chose this. I stood in that parking lot until the sun started setting, until the janitors came out to lock up the school, until every other family had driven away celebrating. Just me and my phone and those Facebook photos that proved, without any doubt, that I didn't matter. Not enough, anyway. When I finally got in my car, I sat there for another 20 minutes, waiting to cry. Waiting to feel something. But I just felt cold. Hollow. Like someone had reached inside my chest and scooped out everything important. My phone rang. Mom. I stared at her name on the screen, watching it ring and ring. Then I answered. Alyssa. Hi, sweetie. How was graduation? Did you send pictures? I've been waiting to see them. Her voice was bright. Cheerful. Like she'd done nothing wrong. Did you send pics? I asked quietly. What? Honey, I'm asking you for pictures. We've been waiting all day. Check Facebook, I said. Then I hung up. I drove home in silence. Pulled into the driveway of our house, the house where I'd lived for 18 years, studied at the kitchen table, cried over math homework, celebrated every small victory. It looked different now. Smaller. Like a place that belonged to someone else. Inside, I went straight to my room. Locked the door. Sat on my bed with my laptop and methodically screenshot every single Facebook post. Every photo. Every timestamp. Every caption. Saved them all in a folder labeled graduation. I don't know what I was planning. Just knew I needed proof. Needed evidence that this really happened, that I wasn't being crazy or dramatic. Around midnight, I heard the front door open. Voices downstairs. Laughter. Becca talking about the Superman ride. Mom asking what people wanted for a late dinner. Normal family sounds. Like today was just another day. Nobody knocked on my door. I stayed in my room until I heard everyone go to bed. Then I crept downstairs, still in my white dress, and poured myself a glass of water. Stood at the kitchen sink drinking it, looking at the dark backyard through the window. On the refrigerator, held up with a Disney magnet, was Becca's report card from last semester. 3 B's, 2 C's, 1 D. Mom had written so proud of you. Across the top in purple marker. My acceptance letter to Stanford, full academic scholarship, was buried somewhere in my room. They glanced at it once when it arrived, said that's nice honey, and gone back to whatever they were doing. I left the glass in the sink and went back to bed. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed messages in the family group chat. I grabbed my phone, my heart pounding, thinking maybe they'd realized, maybe they were apologizing, maybe. No. Family dinner tonight to celebrate Alyssa's graduation. 6 p.m. at Maggiano's. Dress nice. Mom had sent it. Dad had replied with a thumbs up. Becca sent a gif of someone dancing. I stared at those messages for a long time. Then I opened the folder of screenshots, selected the clearest one, my family at Six Flags, timestamp visible, the caption best day ever with our graduate perfectly readable, and sent it to the group chat. Nobody responded immediately. I watched the 3 dots appear and disappear. Appear and disappear. Then I typed 6 words, I gave my speech alone. I left the group chat. Deleted it from my phone. Then I blocked all 3 of them. My hands were shaking, but it felt good. Clean. Like lancing a wound. I'd already been planning to go to Stanford in the fall. Full ride, 1,800 miles away in California. But in that moment, sitting in my bedroom with my phone in my hands and my graduation gown still draped over my desk chair, I made a different decision. I wasn't waiting until fall. For the next week, I moved like a ghost through that house. I'd come home from my summer job, go straight to my room, pack a few things at a time. Nobody noticed. They were busy pretending the Six Flags thing had never happened, that the family dinner they planned, which I obviously didn't attend, was just me being moody. Mom tried talking to me once. Knocked on my door and said, Alyssa, this is getting ridiculous. We're family. We need to talk about this. I didn't answer. Eventually she went away. Dad never tried at all. Becca left a note under my door, you're being a drama queen. Get over it. I threw it away. I contacted Stanford. Explained I wanted to start summer session, take some early courses, get settled. The advisor I spoke with was enthusiastic, said it showed initiative. They helped me arrange housing, get my student ID, access my scholarship funds early. I opened a new bank account at a different bank than my parents used. Transferred all my savings, money from years of birthday gifts, summer jobs, graduation gifts from relatives. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I sold my car to a dealer, it was technically mine, paid for with money I'd earned, and bought a cheap plane ticket to California. I told absolutely no one. Moving day, I woke up at 4 in the morning. My room was nearly empty, everything packed into 2 suitcases and a backpack. I'd shipped boxes of books and clothes ahead to my dorm. I'd arranged for a taxi to pick me up at 5. I took one last look around. At the bedroom where I'd spent countless nights studying. At the desk where I'd written my valedictorian speech. At the bulletin board still covered in academic achievement awards and perfect test scores. Then I left. Walked out of that house while they were all sleeping and didn't look back. The flight was smooth. Unreal. I kept expecting someone to stop me, to realize, to call. But my phone stayed silent. Stanford in summer was beautiful. Warm and golden, palm trees swaying, students in shorts and sandals walking across campus. My dorm was small but mine. My roommate wouldn't arrive until fall semester. I had the whole place to myself. I unpacked. Arranged my books. Hung up my clothes. Made my bed. Then I sat on that bed and finally cried. Huge, gasping sobs that felt like they'd been locked inside me since graduation day. I cried for the family I thought I had. For the parents who should have been there. For every achievement I'd earned alone. When I was done, I washed my face, looked at myself in the mirror, and smiled. I was free. Summer session started. I threw myself into classes, met new people, explored the campus and the surrounding area. Nobody here knew anything about my family. I was just Alyssa, smart student from Texas, excited to be at Stanford. It was perfect. I didn't post on social media. Didn't tell anyone back home where I was. Just vanished into my new life like smoke. 3 months passed like a dream. I aced my summer classes. Made friends with people who actually valued academics, who understood working hard, who celebrated achievements instead of ignoring them. I got a part-time job at the campus library. Joined a study group. Attended a few parties, though I spent most of my time in the library or my dorm, soaking up the peace. For the first time in my life, I felt like I could breathe. Then, on a random Thursday afternoon in late September, someone knocked on my dorm door. I was studying, earbuds in, completely focused on a paper about Renaissance literature. The knocking was insistent. Loud. Alyssa. Open up. We know you're in there. My mother's voice. The room tilted. For a second, I thought I was hallucinating. But no, that was definitely her voice, getting louder, more desperate. Alyssa Marie Martinez, open this door right now. Dad's voice now, deep and commanding in that way he used when he wanted to sound authoritative. Come on, Liz. Just talk to us. Becca, of course. Sounding annoyed. I sat frozen at my desk, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. How did they find me? How did they even know I was here? The knocking continued. Other students were probably staring. My RA would get involved soon if this kept up. I stood up slowly, walked to my door, and pressed my hand against it. I could feel the vibrations of their knocking through the wood. Alyssa, please. Mom's voice cracked. We drove all day to see you. We need to talk about this. You can't just run away from your family. Run away. Something hot and sharp twisted in my chest. I walked back to my desk, pulled out the printed photo I'd been carrying in my bag since graduation, the one I'd printed weeks ago, knowing somehow that this moment would come. It was a picture of me on stage, giving my valedictorian speech. The auditorium full of people. The 4 empty seats in the middle section clearly visible, reserved signs still on them. I'd circled those empty seats in red marker. I walked back to the door and crouched down, sliding the photo underneath, into the hallway. Then I spoke, loud enough for them to hear through the door, but calm. Cold. 7 words I'd been saving for exactly this moment. Those seats were reserved for you. Silence. Then Mom's voice, high and thin, Alyssa, sweetie, I don't, what are you, those seats were reserved for you. I repeated each word slowly, distinctly. You chose Six Flags instead. More silence. I could hear them breathing on the other side of the door. Could picture them looking at that photo, at the damning evidence of those empty seats. Oh gosh, Mom whispered. Oh my gosh, Alyssa, you posted the photos on Facebook, I continued, my voice steady even though my hands were shaking. Time stamped. You were on roller coasters while I gave my speech. You called me your graduate, but you meant Becca. She's a sophomore. I was the one graduating. I was valedictorian. And you went to an amusement park. It wasn't like that. Dad's voice, defensive now. Becca really wanted to go, and we thought we could do both, but then traffic was bad and. You posted the photos at 2:47, I said. My speech started at 2:45. You were already there. You'd been there for hours. You didn't even try. Through the door, I heard a sound I'd never heard before. My mother, crying. Not delicate crying. Ugly, gasping sobs. We didn't realize, she choked out. Alyssa, please, we made a mistake. We made such a terrible mistake. Let us in. Let us explain. There's nothing to explain. My voice felt like it belonged to someone else. Someone stronger. I worked for 4 years for that moment. Perfect grades. Valedictorian. I earned it. And when it mattered most, you weren't there. You chose her. You always choose her. That's not true, Dad shouted. You're being dramatic. We've always supported you. I laughed. It came out harsh and bitter. You don't even know what scholarship I got. You never asked. You saw the Stanford letter and said that's nice and walked away. Do you know what it means? Full ride? Academic excellence. Every penny paid for. 4 years at one of the best schools in the country, and you couldn't even pretend to care. We do care. Mom wailed. We love you. You're our daughter. Then why wasn't that enough? The words burst out of me before I could stop them. Why was I never enough? Becca gets C's and you put her report card on the fridge with purple marker. I get a full scholarship to Stanford and you forget about it. She wants to go to Six Flags on my graduation day and you pick her. You always pick her. We didn't forget your graduation. Becca's voice now, shrill and defensive. We were going to come but what? I challenged. But she was more important? But her fun mattered more than my achievement? Say it. At least be honest. Nobody answered. I pressed my forehead against the door, suddenly exhausted. I have screenshots of everything. Every Facebook post. Every timestamp. Every lie you told me that day. Running late. Got held up. Send pictures. You were already there. You were having the best day ever without me, Alyssa. Dad's voice was quieter now, strained. You have to understand. Becca was having a hard time. Her grades were bad, she was struggling with friends, she needed something to make her feel better. You thought I'd be fine. I finished for him. Because I'm always fine. Because I don't need anything. Because I'm just supposed to succeed quietly and not make a fuss while you fix her problems. The silence told me I was right. I moved here 3 months ago, I said. And none of you noticed. None of you called to ask where I was. You didn't even notice I was gone. That's because you blocked us, Becca shouted. You left the group chat and blocked our numbers. How were we supposed to? You have my email. You have my social media. You could have driven to my room at home and knocked on my door. You could have gone to my summer job. You could have asked my friends. You could have done anything, but you didn't. Because it was easier to pretend I was just being moody. To wait for me to get over it and come back. Through the door, I heard Mom collapse. Actually collapse, the heavy sound of someone sliding down a wall to the floor. Her sobs got louder. Dad was saying something, his voice muffled, probably trying to help her up. Becca just sounded angry. This is insane. You're tearing our family apart over one mistake. One? I laughed again, sharp and cold. One mistake? Do you want me to list them? Because I have 4 years' worth. Every achievement you dismissed. Every award you forgot about. Every time I stayed up until 3 in the morning studying and you asked why I was so tired. Every time you told me I was too serious, too focused, too obsessed with grades. Every parent-teacher conference you skipped. Every school event you missed. Should I keep going? Stop, Dad said, his voice breaking. Please stop. You told me education was important, I continued, the words pouring out now like water from a broken dam. You told me to work hard, to aim high, to make something of myself. And I did. I did everything right. But it turns out that was just something you said. What you actually valued was making sure Becca felt good about herself, even when she didn't earn it. Even when it meant sacrificing my moment. We didn't mean to sacrifice, Mom started. You posted the photos, I interrupted. You posted them publicly, tagged me in them, captioned it best day ever with our graduate. You wanted everyone to see what a great family day you had. You just didn't want them to know it was during my graduation. You wanted credit for celebrating me without actually having to show up. The hallway went completely silent. Even Mom's sobbing had stopped. I'm not coming out, I said finally. And I'm not going home. This is my home now. Stanford. This dorm. This life I built without you. You can sit out there as long as you want, but I'm not opening this door. Alyssa, you can't, Dad started. I can. I'm 18. Legal adult. I have scholarships you didn't pay for, housing you don't control, a life you're not part of. You made that choice on graduation day. You just didn't realize it yet. I heard shuffling. Whispered arguing. Then Dad's voice, closer to the door, trying to sound authoritative. We're your parents. You can't just cut us out of your life. Watch me. We drove 16 hours to get here, Becca yelled. The least you could do is talk to us like a normal person instead of hiding like a child. Funny, I said. On graduation day, I stood on that stage like an adult and gave a speech to a room full of strangers while you rode roller coasters. I think I've earned the right to hide. More whispered arguing. Mom was saying something about hotels, about staying until I came out, about making this right. I grabbed my phone and texted my RA, family situation at my door. They're not dangerous, but they're not leaving. Might need help. She responded immediately, on my way. 2 minutes later, I heard her voice in the hallway. Professional, firm. I'm going to have to ask you folks to leave. You're disrupting other students, and the resident has asked for privacy. We're her family. Mom protested. We just want to talk to her. I understand, but this is her home. If she doesn't want to speak with you, I have to ask you to leave the building. You can wait outside if you'd like, but you can't stay in this hallway. I listened to them argue for another few minutes, my RA staying calm and professional, my parents getting increasingly desperate. Finally, I heard footsteps moving away. Dad saying something about giving me space. Mom still crying. Becca muttering about how crazy I was. A soft knock. Alyssa? It's Rachel. They're gone. You okay? I opened the door a crack. Rachel, my RA, stood there looking concerned. She was a senior, tough and kind in equal measure. The kind of person who dealt with dorm drama like it was an Olympic sport. I'm okay, I said. Thank you. She studied my face. You want to talk about it? Not really. Okay. But if they come back, call me immediately. And if you need anything, counseling services, campus security, whatever, let me know. I nodded. She left. I closed my door, locked it, and leaned against it. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. We're at a hotel nearby. Please, just have dinner with us. One meal. That's all we're asking. I turned my phone off. That night, I couldn't focus on anything. Kept pacing my room, expecting another knock. Around midnight, I finally crawled into bed but didn't sleep. Just lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying the conversation through the door over and over. My mother had fainted when she saw the photo. Or something like it, that collapse I'd heard. Dad's voice breaking. Even Becca had sounded shaken by the end. Part of me, a small, treacherous part, felt guilty. But mostly, I felt numb. Because they were sorry now. Now that they'd driven 16 hours and seen the proof. Now that I'd humiliated them with their own choices. Now that I wasn't quietly swallowing my hurt and pretending everything was fine. They were sorry because I'd made them face it. Not because they'd actually understood, all those months ago, what they'd done. The next morning, I turned my phone back on. 17 missed calls. 32 text messages. All from different numbers. They'd figured out I'd blocked them and were using friends' phones, other relatives' phones, anyone who might get through to me. The messages ranged from apologetic to angry to manipulative. Please just talk to us. You're being unreasonable. We said we're sorry. What more do you want? Your grandmother is worried sick. You're destroying this family. We love you so much. Please come home. I deleted them all. Blocked the new numbers. Then I emailed my grandmother directly. She was the only one I felt bad about, and explained briefly that I was safe, happy, and needed space from my parents. I didn't give details. Just told her I loved her and would stay in touch. She wrote back immediately, I saw the Facebook posts, honey. I wondered why you weren't in any of the photos. I should have said something. I'm sorry. Take all the time you need. At least someone had noticed. I buried myself in classwork. Spent entire days in the library. Picked up extra shifts at my job. Basically, did everything I could to avoid thinking about the fact that my family was somewhere in this city, probably driving around campus, looking for me. Rachel texted, "Your parents were in the lobby asking about you. Campus security is aware. You're safe." 3 days later, I got an email from Dad. "Alyssa, we're heading home. We can see you're not ready to talk, and we respect that. But please know we love you. We made a terrible mistake. We can't take it back, but we want to make it right. When you're ready, we'll be here. Your mother is devastated. She hasn't stopped crying since she saw that photo. We never meant to hurt you. We messed up. Please don't shut us out forever. Love, Dad." I stared at that email for a long time. Read it maybe 20 times, analyzing every word, every phrase. We respect that. Translation: we don't, but we can't force you. When you're ready. Translation: we expect you to come around eventually. Your mother is devastated. Translation: look what you're doing to her. They still didn't get it. Not really. They were sorry they'd been caught. Sorry I was angry. Sorry for the consequences. But I wasn't sure they actually understood why what they'd done was so deeply, fundamentally wrong. I didn't respond to the email. Fall semester started. The dorms filled up with returning students. My roommate arrived, a bubbly engineering major named Priya who talked a mile a minute and made friends with everyone. She asked about my family once, in passing, and I said we're not really in touch in a tone that made it clear I didn't want to discuss it. She never brought it up again. Life settled into a rhythm. Classes, studying, work, friends, repeat. It was good. Really good. I was thriving academically, meeting people who challenged me, exploring a beautiful campus and city. Everything I'd worked for was finally paying off. But late at night, sometimes, I think about that photo sliding under the door. About my mother's sob. About those 4 empty seats. And I'd wonder if I'd done the right thing. Not about leaving, that was definitely right. But about the door. About not even trying to have a conversation. About letting them drive 16 hours just to speak 7 words through wood and then shut them out. My therapist, yes, I started seeing a therapist, because Stanford's counseling services were free and I clearly needed them, asked me about that. "Do you think you owe them a conversation?" "I don't know," I admitted. Part of me wants to say no, they don't deserve it. But another part feels like maybe I'm being cruel. Like maybe I should have at least looked at them. "What would that conversation look like?" she asked. I thought about it. They'd apologize. They'd make excuses. They'd tell me about how hard things have been for Becca, how stressed they were, how they didn't mean it. They'd promise to do better. And then what? I forgive them? Go back to being the kid who works herself to death for scraps of attention while they focus on my sister? Is that what you think would happen? That's what always happened before. She nodded slowly. So maybe the question isn't whether you owe them a conversation. Maybe it's whether having that conversation would change anything. I went back to my dorm and thought about that for days. Would it change anything? Or would it just give them permission to feel better about themselves, to check the "we tried" box, to go back home and tell relatives we apologized but she won't forgive us and make me the bad guy in the story? I didn't have an answer. Months passed. Thanksgiving came and went. I stayed on campus, had dinner with Priya's family who lived nearby. They were warm and kind and interested in my life. Priya's mom asked about my major, my classes, my plans. Listened to the answers. Remembered details and brought them up later. It was nice. Also painful, in a way that was hard to explain. Christmas approached. I got a package in the mail from my parents. Inside, expensive gifts, a long card about how much they miss me, photos of the family, minus me, at various events. I put it all in my closet, unopened gifts and all. I didn't want their things. I wanted the one thing they'd never given me, to be seen. Classes ended. Finals came and went. I aced them all, of course. First semester GPA, 4.0. I had a spot on the dean's list. My academic advisor called me exceptional. Nobody from home knew. Nobody from home asked. I started thinking about next steps. Summer internships. Research opportunities. Study abroad programs. My whole future spread out before me like a map, and I could go anywhere, do anything. For the first time in my life, my choices were completely my own. New Year's Eve, I stood on the roof of my dorm building with a group of friends, watching fireworks over the city. Someone handed me a plastic cup of cheap champagne. We toasted to new beginnings. Priya threw her arm around my shoulders. Next year's going to be amazing, she said. I can feel it. I smiled and nodded, but privately, I thought, this year was already pretty good. January brought a new semester, new classes, new challenges. I was taking advanced coursework now, really pushing myself. The workload was intense but manageable. I loved it. Loved being surrounded by people who valued education, who understood that working hard wasn't weird or obsessive. Then, in late January, I got a letter. Not email. An actual handwritten letter, forwarded through the university system. The return address was from someone I didn't recognize. I almost threw it away, thinking it was junk mail. But something made me open it. Inside, in my mother's handwriting. Alyssa, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know I don't deserve your time. But I need you to understand something. I've been going to therapy. Your dad and I both have. We've been working through what happened, trying to understand how we failed you so completely. And the therapist helped me see something I've been avoiding for years. I parentified you. I treated you like you were already raised, like you didn't need me anymore, because you were so capable. Meanwhile, I poured all my energy into Becca because she struggled. But struggling doesn't mean she needed me more. It just meant she demanded attention differently. You earned it. You deserved it. And I didn't give it to you. That's on me. Not on you. And I am so sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to call or write back. I just needed you to know that I finally understand. I see what I did. And I would give anything, to go back and fill those 4 seats. Love always, Mom. I read that letter 5 times. Then I folded it carefully, put it back in the envelope, and set it on my desk. I didn't cry. Didn't feel the surge of emotion I expected. Just sat there, numb, staring at the envelope like it might explode. Parentified. That was the word that stuck in my brain. I'd heard it before, maybe in a psychology class or an article somewhere. Treating a child like an adult. Expecting them to handle their own problems because they seemed capable. Neglecting their emotional needs because they didn't make a fuss. Yeah. That sounded about right. I thought about all those nights studying alone at the kitchen table while my parents helped Becca with her homework in the other room. How I'd learned to pack my own lunches by 4th grade because Mom was too busy getting Becca ready for school. How I figured out college applications by myself, navigated financial aid forms alone, made every major life decision without input because asking for help felt like admitting weakness. I'd been so proud of my independence. Thought it made me strong. Turns out, I'd just been abandoned in slow motion. The letter sat on my desk for 3 days. I'd look at it between classes, before bed, first thing in the morning. My eyes would trace my mother's handwriting, still the same loopy script she'd used to sign permission slips and birthday cards my whole life. Priya noticed. You okay? You've been staring at that envelope like it's going to tell you the meaning of life. My mom wrote to me, I said. First time since. Everything. You going to write back? I don't know. Do you want to? That was the question, wasn't it? I made an appointment with my therapist. Brought the letter. Read it out loud, my voice steady until I got to the part about the 4 empty seats, and then it cracked just a little. What do you think? My therapist asked when I finished. I think she finally gets it, I said. But I also think it's too late? Or maybe not too late, but just different now. I can't go back to being their daughter the way I was. That person doesn't exist anymore. No, she agreed. You can't go back. But that doesn't mean you can't go forward. What does that even mean? She smiled gently. It means you get to decide what relationship you want with them, if any. Not based on who you were or who they were, but who you all are now. You're not obligated to forgive them. You're not obligated to have them in your life. But if some part of you wants to try, you can do that too. On your terms. On my terms. I liked the sound of that. That night, I sat down at my desk with my laptop and started typing. Mom, I got your letter. I appreciate that you're in therapy and working on understanding what happened. That takes courage. But I need you to know something, I can't just forgive and forget. Those empty seats weren't one mistake. They were the culmination of 18 years of feeling invisible in my own family. You're right that I was capable. I had to be. Because nobody was going to help me if I wasn't. I learned early that my struggles didn't matter as much as Becca's. That my achievements were expected, not celebrated. That I had to earn love by being perfect, while she got it just for existing. Maybe you didn't mean to do that. But you did. And therapy is great, but it doesn't erase the damage. I'm not ready to have you back in my life. Maybe someday. But not now. Not yet. I need more time to figure out who I am without you. Without the weight of trying to be good enough for parents who couldn't see me. I don't hate you. But I can't be your daughter right now. I'm sorry if that hurts. But you taught me something important. Sometimes people have to choose themselves. That's what I'm doing. Alyssa. I read it over 6 times. Made tiny edits. Then, before I could second guess myself, I sent it. The response came 2 days later. Short, this time. I understand. Take all the time you need. We love you. We'll be here when you're ready. If you're ever ready. Mom. No guilt trip. No manipulation. Just acceptance. It felt like the first honest thing she'd said to me in years. February brought midterms and a new project for my Renaissance literature class that consumed all my time. I was grateful for the distraction. Buried myself in research, spent hours in the library, let my brain focus on something other than family drama. Priya dragged me to a campus event one Friday night, some mixer for students interested in study abroad programs. I wasn't really planning to go abroad, but she insisted, said I needed to have fun occasionally, that I couldn't just study all the time. At the event, I met a guy named Daniel. Senior, double major in history and political science, planning to go to law school. We got talking about a summer program in Italy, Renaissance art and culture, 6 weeks in Florence. You should apply, he said. They're still accepting applications, and with your background in literature, you'd be perfect. I don't know, I hedged. That's expensive. There are scholarships. Grants. You're already on full ride here, right? You know how to work the system. He wasn't wrong. That night, lying in bed, I thought about it. 6 weeks in Florence. Studying art and culture in the place where it all happened. No family. No drama. Just me and history and beautiful architecture. I applied the next morning. March came. I got accepted to the Florence program with a full scholarship. My advisor nearly hugged me when I told her. This is exactly the kind of opportunity you should be taking, she said. You're going to love it. I called my grandmother to tell her. She was thrilled, asked a million questions, told me to take lots of pictures. Have you talked to your parents? She asked carefully. Not really, I admitted. Mom sent a letter. I responded. But that's it. They miss you terribly, you know. I know. But I understand why you're doing this. You needed to find yourself without them hovering. Even if the hovering was selective. I laughed despite myself. That's a diplomatic way to put it. I'm old. I get to be diplomatic. But Alyssa? When you're ready, not now, maybe not for years, but eventually, give them a chance to be better. People can change. Sometimes. I'll think about it, I promised. April arrived with warm weather at the end of the semester approaching fast. Finals, papers, projects, everything piling up at once. I thrived under pressure, always had. Turned in a 20-page research paper 2 days early. Aced my calculus final. Gave a presentation on Dante that made my professor tear up. You have a gift, she told me afterward. For making old texts feel alive. Don't waste it. I wouldn't. I was finally in a place where my gifts mattered, where people noticed and appreciated them. Where working hard wasn't something to hide or downplay. The last day of the semester, Priya and I sat on the quad eating ice cream, watching other students pack up and head home for summer. You excited about Florence? She asked. Terrified, actually. I've never been out of the country. You'll be amazing. You're always amazing. I nudged her shoulder. You have to say that. You're my roommate. I don't have to say anything. But it's true. She was quiet for a minute, then, can I ask you something? About your family? I tensed but nodded. Do you think you'll ever talk to them again? Like, really talk? Honestly? I don't know. Part of me wants to. Wants to believe people can change, that we could have a real relationship someday. But another part of me is scared that if I let them back in, even a little, I'll fall into old patterns. Become the perfect daughter who doesn't need anything again. Maybe you're not that person anymore, Priya said. Maybe you've changed too much to go back. Maybe, I agreed. I hope so. Summer in Florence was everything I'd hoped for and more. The city was breathtaking, all golden light and ancient stone, art everywhere you looked. The program was intense but incredible. I studied under professors who were passionate about their subjects, who treated us like colleagues instead of students. I made friends from all over the world. Spent evenings drinking wine on rooftops, discussing philosophy and art until sunrise. Visited museums and churches and places I'd only read about in books. Felt my brain expand and shift, accommodating new ideas, new perspectives. One night, sitting in a tiny restaurant in Trastevere, eating the best pasta I'd ever tasted, I realized something. I was happy. Genuinely, deeply happy. Not just successful or accomplished, but actually content with my life. It was a strange feeling. Foreign. But good. I took a photo of my plate, the restaurant, the street outside. Almost posted it to Instagram, then stopped. Who would I be posting for? My friends here were sitting right next to me. My Stanford friends would see it eventually. And my family. I still had them blocked on everything. I put my phone away and focused on the moment. The food, the laughter, the summer air warm against my skin. The program ended in late July. I flew back to California feeling like a different person. More confident. More certain of who I was and what I wanted. Sophomore year started with new classes, new challenges, new goals. I declared my major officially, English with a focus on Renaissance literature. Started talking to advisors about graduate school, about what came after Stanford. The possibilities felt endless. In October, my grandmother had a stroke. Not severe, but scary. She spent a week in the hospital, then moved to a rehab facility. She called me the day she got there. Her voice was weak but determined. "I'm fine. Stop worrying. But I want to see you." "I'll come," I said immediately. "Fall break is in 2 weeks. I'll fly home." "Your parents will probably be here," she warned. I took a deep breath. "I know. It's okay. It's time." I wasn't sure if that was true, but she needed me. And maybe, I was ready. The flight to Texas felt longer than the flight to Italy had. My stomach was in knots the whole way. I'd booked a hotel room, refused to stay at my parents' house, but I knew I'd see them at the hospital. Grandmother's room was on the 3rd floor. I stood outside for a full minute, gathering courage, before pushing through the door. She was sitting up in bed, looking smaller than I remembered but still fierce. Her face lit up when she saw me. "There's my brilliant girl," she said, opening her arms. I hugged her carefully, trying not to jostle any tubes or wires. She smelled like hospital soap and the lavender lotion she'd used my whole life. "You came," she whispered. Of course I came. We talked for an hour. I told her about Florence, about my classes, about my plans for the future. She listened and asked questions and looked at me like I was the most interesting person in the world. It was perfect. Then the door opened. My mother stood there, frozen, holding a vase of flowers. Behind her, my father, looking older than I remembered. And Becca, who'd grown her hair long. We stared at each other. Nobody moved. "Alyssa," Mom finally said, her voice breaking on my name. I stood up slowly. "Mom. You came home," she whispered. "For Grandma. Not for you." The words came out harsher than I meant, but they were true. Mom flinched. Set the flowers down carefully. "Can we talk? Please. Just for a few minutes?" I looked at my grandmother. She nodded encouragingly. "Fine," I said. "But not here. Outside." We walked to a small courtyard outside the hospital. Late afternoon sun slanted through the trees. My parents sat on a bench. Becca leaned against a wall, arms crossed, defensive. I stayed standing. "You look good," Dad said finally. "Healthy. Happy." "I am," I said simply. "Stanford treating you well?" "Yes." The small talk felt excruciating. Finally, Mom couldn't take it anymore. "I'm sorry," she burst out. "I know I wrote that in the letter, but I need to say it to your face. I'm so sorry. For graduation. For everything. For failing you." "We both are," Dad added. "We've been in therapy, working on understanding how we treated you. It was wrong. All of it." I waited. Let the silence stretch. "I made excuses," Mom continued, tears streaming down her face. "Told myself you didn't need me because you were so capable. Poured everything into Becca because she struggled. But that wasn't fair to you. You needed me too. You deserved better." "Yes," I said quietly. "I did." Can you forgive us? Dad asked. Not today, maybe, but someday? I thought about that question. Really thought about it. Looked at my parents, older now, smaller somehow, broken by their own mistakes. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe. But forgiveness doesn't mean going back to how things were. I can't be that daughter anymore. The one who worked herself to death for scraps of attention. Who came in second to Becca's needs every single time. We don't want you to be, Mom said quickly. We want to know the real you. The person you've become. Do you, though? I challenged. Because you don't know anything about my life? You don't know about my classes or my friends or my summer in Florence. You don't know that I'm thinking about graduate school, or that I won an award for a paper I wrote, or that I'm happy. Really happy. Without you. That last part clearly hurt. I saw Mom wince, saw Dad look at the ground. We want to know, Dad said quietly. If you'll let us. I turned to Becca, who'd been silent this whole time. What about you? You haven't said anything. She shifted uncomfortably. What do you want me to say? I don't know. Maybe that you're sorry? That you realize going to Six Flags on my graduation day was messed up? It was Mom and Dad's idea. She protested. But you went along with it. You posted photos. You captioned it best day ever with our graduate knowing I was the one graduating and you weren't even there. I was 15, she shouted. What was I supposed to do? Say no to an amusement park? You could have asked them to go another day. You could have said maybe we should see Alyssa's speech first. You could have done literally anything except what you did. Becca's eyes filled with tears. You don't get it. You've never gotten it. Everything's always been easy for you. Perfect grades, perfect everything. I had to work twice as hard just to get half the attention. That's not true, I said, but my voice was softer now. You got all the attention. I got ignored. Because you didn't need it, she yelled. You were fine on your own. Meanwhile, I was struggling and everyone could see it and I was the family disappointment and, she broke off, crying hard now. And suddenly, I saw it. The other side of the story. The version where Becca was drowning and our parents were so focused on saving her that they let me drift away. Where neither of us got what we needed, just for different reasons. It didn't make what they did okay. But it made it more complicated. I did need it, I said quietly. I just didn't know how to ask for it. So I tried to earn it instead. And when that didn't work, I gave up and left. Mom was sobbing now. We failed you both. Different ways, but we failed. And I don't know how to fix it. You can't fix it, I said. You can just do better. Starting now. How? Dad asked. Tell us how. I thought about it. About what I actually wanted from them. Stop treating me like I don't need anything, I said finally. Stop assuming I'm fine because I don't complain. Ask me about my life and actually listen to the answers. Don't compare me to Becca or her to me. We're different people with different needs. We can do that, Mom said quickly. We want to do that. And recognize that I might not want a close relationship right away, I continued. I might need time. Space. You have to respect that. We will, Dad promised. Whatever you need. I nodded slowly. Felt something in my chest loosen just slightly. Not forgiveness, exactly. But maybe the beginning of a possibility. I'm staying in California for Thanksgiving, I said. But maybe. Maybe Christmas. Maybe I could come home for a few days. We could try. Mom's face transformed with hope. Really? Maybe, I emphasized. No promises. And if it doesn't feel right, I'm leaving. That's fair, Dad said. More than fair. We stood there in that courtyard for a few more minutes, nobody quite sure how to end the conversation. Finally, Becca spoke up, her voice small. I'm sorry. About graduation. About all of it. You deserved better from all of us. I looked at her, my sister, who I'd been so angry at for so long. Saw past the defensiveness to the guilt underneath. Thank you, I said. That means something. We went back inside. Spent another hour with Grandma, this time all of us together. It was awkward but not terrible. Mom asked about Florence and actually listened to my answer. Dad wanted to know about my classes. Even Becca seemed interested, asked if I'd met any cute Italian guys. I had, but I didn't tell them that part. When I left, Mom hugged me carefully, like I might break. Thank you for giving us another chance. I haven't decided yet, I reminded her. But I'm trying. That's all we can ask. I flew back to California the next day. Sat on that plane thinking about everything that had happened. About the conversation in the courtyard, about Becca's tears, about my mother's desperate hope. I still didn't know if we could fix this. If enough time and therapy and effort could rebuild what had been broken. But for the first time, I thought maybe, it was possible. And maybe that was enough for now. Months passed. I focused on school, on my life, on building the future I wanted. My parents and I texted occasionally. Short messages. How's your week? Good, you? Nothing deep, but consistent. They sent me news from home without expecting me to come visit. Remember details about my classes and asked follow-up questions. It wasn't perfect. But it was different. Christmas came. I flew home with serious reservations and my therapist's number saved in my phone, just in case. Stayed at a hotel. Set clear boundaries. I come for dinner Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, but I wasn't staying over, wasn't playing happy family for extended relatives. They agreed to everything. Christmas Eve was strange. We sat around their dining room table, the same table where I'd eaten 1,000 meals, done endless hours of homework, sat alone while they helped Becca in the other room. Everything looked the same, but felt different. Dinner was quiet at first. Awkward small talk. But then Dad asked about a paper I'd written, and I found myself telling them about the research, about my professor's feedback, about how I discovered this obscure connection between Dante and medieval astronomy. They listened. Really listened. Asked questions that showed they were paying attention. When I finished, Mom said, "You're going to be a professor someday, aren't you? You light up when you talk about this stuff." I blinked, surprised. Maybe. I thought about it. "You'd be amazing at it," she said simply. It was such a small thing. But it felt huge. Christmas morning, I came back to find presents under their tree. Not expensive things, just small, thoughtful gifts that showed they'd been paying attention. A book by my favorite author. A leather-bound journal. A Florentine gift they'd ordered online, or I mentioned it in passing. "We know we can't make up for the past," Dad said as I opened them. "But we want to be better. Want to be part of your future, if you'll let us." I looked at these people who'd raised me, who'd failed me, who were trying so hard now to get it right. "Okay," I said. "We can try." It wasn't a perfect ending. We still had issues to work through, patterns to break, years of damage to heal. I went back to California after 3 days, relieved to be gone but glad I'd come. But it was a start. And sometimes, a start is enough. The rest of my sophomore year flew by. Junior year brought new challenges, new opportunities. My parents came to visit once, just for a weekend, with advance notice and a clear itinerary. We walked around campus, had dinner, talked about my plans for the future. It was good. Still careful, still healing, but good. Becca and I texted occasionally. Started building our own relationship, separate from our parents. She apologized again, more fully this time. Told me she understood better now, was in therapy herself, working through her own issues with how we'd been raised. We weren't close. But we weren't enemies either. My grandmother recovered fully and came to visit me in California that fall. I showed her everything, my dorm, my favorite study spots, the library where I spent most of my time. She beamed with pride the whole visit. "You did it," she said on her last night there. "You saved yourself. That takes strength." "I had to," I said simply. "I know. But not everyone does. Some people just accept being invisible. You didn't. You chose yourself. That matters." I thought about that a lot after she left. About choosing yourself. About the moment when you decide that you deserve more than what you've been given. About having the courage to walk away from people who can't see you. I'd walked away. Closed the door. Slid that photo underneath and said 7 words that changed everything. And yeah, my mother fainted. My father cried. My sister finally understood the weight of what they'd done. But I'd survived. More than survived, I'd thrived. And now, standing in my junior year at Stanford with a 4.0 GPA, amazing friends, plans for graduate school, and a slowly healing relationship with my family, I could say with certainty, I'd made the right choice. Those empty seats had taught me something important. That I was worth showing up for. That my achievements mattered. That I deserved better than scraps of attention and conditional love. I'd given my valedictorian speech to other people's families. But I'd done it brilliantly. I'd earned that moment, and no one could take it away from me. Not even the people who should have been there but weren't. I still have that photo. The one I slid under the door. Keep it in my desk drawer as a reminder. Not of what I lost, but of what I found, myself. And that's worth more than any family photo could ever be.